Call meeting to order. Shelley, can you roll call, please?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. District 1, Councilman Rios is excused. District 2, Councilman Pastor.
Present.
District 3, Councilman Leatham.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley.
Here.
Mayor Gameros.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley. Invite Chief Robinson for the invocation.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this evening, for the blessings that we enjoy as citizens of this land and of this community. We're grateful for all those who serve in an effort to make it better. We're grateful for this body and for their efforts, for our community, and ask that thou would attend them this evening as they deliberate and make decisions, that they will do so in a manner that will be productive and that will reflect positively on our community and our citizens. Please bless any in our community who may be in distress or in need, that their needs will be met, and help us to be mindful of them. These things we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Fernando, can you read the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll start with summary of current events in council. Mike, we'll start with you down there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to relay a good job, a job well done up at the Globe High School girls softball field. Coach Frank Grice has contacted me and said that our guys, and John, you know who they are, so if you'll let him know. He was very pleased and appreciates what we've done up there for their concession stand and everything up there. So if you'll relay that to your guys, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Jesse?
Mayor, I don't have anything, thank you.
Mike?
Sure, Mayor, thank you. I just have a few things. I attended the Coffee with the Mayor last Wednesday. We meet every month over at Copper City's Coffees, and we had about 10 or 12 participants, so it's growing every month. I think this is our third month now that we've done it. And so I invite everybody who has interest in speaking with us. It's usually the mayor and myself, and we bring up any questions that anybody has or concerns. The next one is May 21st. It's always the third Wednesday of the month at 1 o'clock. So if you'd like to go, please attend. Second thing is I attended the official ribbon cutting of Hill Street School, the apartments. And that was about 2 weeks ago, and we probably had, I don't know, I'm guessing 100, 150 people there. So it was a really good turnout. So thank you, everybody that attended that. And then a couple weekends ago, we did Melissa and Linda did a Globe Clean and Beautiful. We had 4 roll-offs throughout the city. We planted flowers, painted handrails, did sidewalk cleaning, painted the handicap parking on the sidewalks and what have you. So I think we got a count of about 90 people, didn't we? So it was a great turnout. So thank you. I just want to make sure that I thank you guys for putting that on. So thank you. I'm sorry? And Public Works, yeah. Yeah, you too, John. And then next Friday is our first Friday. We had to cancel the last first Friday due to rain and heavy wind and cold, actually. So we were gonna, the PD was putting on an Easter egg hunt that Friday, but we missed it. So they're gonna do it this coming up first Friday. So thank you, Chief, and make sure you thank all your men and women that help put that on.
Absolutely, thanks.
So thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. Mariano?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say thank you to all of our city staff with all the activity that we've been going through in the last month.
Our city staff is always there to keep things straight and proper, and been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And I'm proud of our city staff. They've worked very hard to produce results for each of the missions that we give them, and we don't often thank them enough. So thank you all for all of your hard work. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Fernando?
Just a couple things. So I wear many hats, and one of the hats that I wear is I'm a board member of the community college for Gila County, and just have an update. So if you remember, EAC was our partner, and we ended up getting self-accredited, so we're now no longer going to need a partner. But the nursing program was in question because the nursing program, just because we have the ability to offer credits, does not mean that we'll be able to offer a nursing program, because that has to be approved by the State Department of Nursing. And so we did our applications, and one of the final steps was them to come and review our campuses and look at our facilities, determine whether or not we could appropriately offer the program. So we just got approved the day before yesterday. So now the last thing to do is it's on the consent agenda for their May meeting, which should be May 23rd. And then if it goes on the consent agenda, that means everybody's looked at it and nobody's mad, and it should just go right through. So we'll just pray that it goes right through, which means that we'll be offering a nursing program starting with our August fall classes. So that's great news for our community. Also, I missed the last meeting because I was at the economic forum that was sponsored by Resolution Copper. So I got to attend that, and it's a very high level. They basically bring people in from industry and business, trade, even people who move trade. And so it's a very high level, and they're basically looking at the world saying, what are all the opportunities that are coming, and what could communities do to maybe take advantage of the opportunities. So it's really interesting to people like me. And so I'm glad I got to attend, and thank you to Resolution for sponsoring us. And thank you again to everybody that helped with the cleanup this couple weekends ago. It really looks good, and it shows a lot. So thank you.
Hopefully we get some numbers on how much was collected. It'd be
Yeah,
great.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Fernando. I just have two things. Just a reminder, Old Dominion Days begins this week, the 24th to the 27th. I think you can buy tickets online, or you can purchase them at the chamber still. So if you're interested in any of the events, they have quite a lineup. They do have a old timers baseball game going on the weekend, which will be amazing to see, and see who wins the first one here, the annual one. The last thing I have is I'd like to take a moment of silence for the passing of Pope Francis, who passed away this week. So I'd like to just acknowledge that with a moment of silence. Thank you. Paul?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, no, thank you very much. Like I say, very busy with meetings and events. Also, we're deep in the budget season right now, and this will start coming to you very quickly between now and July 1. And thank you for tonight. I know this I don't like so much on the agenda, but we need to get a lot of this stuff across the finish line tonight. And again, remember what we covered tonight, we won't have to cover in 2 weeks.
There'll be more.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We come to our first community call to the public. Again, this is any citizen desiring to speak on a matter that is not scheduled on the agenda may do so at this time. This time is for the public to comment to members of the city council explicitly, not to members of the staff. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. And at this, just so you understand, we cannot respond to any public comments, but we can direct staff to follow up on that. So I do have two requests. I have JP Perry. If you want to go up to the mic here, state your name and address.
My wife go up first.
Okay, yeah, and I have hers too. Victoria? Yeah, so I have both of those, yes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, and it's an honor to be here tonight. And so good to see all of you that were at the bridge grand opening, Connie's Bridge grand opening. It's absolutely beautiful, and the grand opening was spectacular. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's wonderful having that bridge there. I drive to work every day over the bridge, the new bridge now. And just what I wanted to speak about, Officer Rosser told me to be here tonight and to address the council. At the intersection, some of the people blow past the stop sign, so I've almost been hit twice now. So I just wanted to make you aware of that and see if maybe the old stop signs that were in place there, or even make it a four-way stop to see if that would be possible. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And again, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? I just wanted to add a little bit to that also. I think a lot of the people that are going down Waterman Road onto Broad, they're so used to having that stop sign in the middle of the street. They're just going like it isn't there. But I was speaking to a friend of mine that lives on that intersection. And his biggest concern is that when he goes to back out of his driveway, by the time he sees somebody coming across the bridge, they're already on top of him, so he can't back out of there. So it might possibly be a better spot for a four-way stop, just for safety of all. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention is on May 15th, we have a celebration for it's a memorial for Gila County first responders that have passed in the line of duty since our inception in 1881. And we had a big monument made. That's all gonna be dedicated, and you're all welcome to come.
Location, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's at the, behind the Chamber of Commerce at the Gila County Museum.
Thank you.
Start at 11 o'clock, flyover, dignitaries, and lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have special presentations. Item 3A is presentation of proclamation proclaiming May 10th, 2025 as National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive on behalf of the Globe City Council. So I'll read that one first. So we got proclamation, whereas the National Association of Letter Carriers Branch 704 represents all letter carriers in Tucson and many other post offices in southern Arizona. And whereas NALC Branch 704, the United States Postal Service of the AFL-CIO have joined together with local community food banks for the past 17 years for the annual Letter Carriers Food Drive. And whereas the food drive was initiated in 1991 to assist the many community food banks, food pantries, and homeless shelters throughout the nation. And whereas the food drive effort is a community-based endeavor and all food items donated remain within each local jurisdiction, local community to serve the needs of the community. Whereas we recognize the noteworthy milestone of 33 years that the National Letter Carrier Food Drive celebrates in 2025. And now therefore, and on behalf of this council of the City of Globe, Arizona, I, Mayor Gameros, do hereby proclaim May 10th, 2025 to be National Association of Letter Food Drive Day in this community. Encourage all our citizens to join in this important effort by leaving food items near their mailboxes on Saturday, May 10th, 2025 for the letter carriers to pick up as they make their rounds. And I don't know if we have anybody here from the postal, but we'll get it to them.
Eric did reach out to the post office, and we'll get that to them, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley. So next we have item B in presentation proclamation proclaiming May 2nd, 2025 as National Firefighters Day. And I'll read this, that proclamation. Whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States have designated the day of the annual National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service as a day to honor firefighters and emergency services personnel who have sacrificed their lives to save others by lowering the flag on all federal buildings to half-staff. And whereas an average of 80 firefighters courageously make the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty each year. Whereas firefighters and emergency services personnel play an essential role in the protection of lives and property in our local community. And whereas the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend marks the weekend following International Firefighters Day 2025. And whereas it is a major importance that we increase our efforts to reduce deaths, injuries, and property losses from fire. Now therefore, on behalf of the Council of the City of Globe, Arizona, I, Mayor Algameros, now call upon all citizens of the City of Globe and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the day of May 2nd, 2025 in recognition of the patriotic service and dedicated efforts of our fire and emergency service personnel by lowering American flags on all buildings to half-staff. I respectfully encourage these same organizations, as well as all the citizens of the City of Globe, to remember all fire and emergency personnel who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community and to pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes by participating in Bells Across America for fallen firefighters. Toll a bell, pause for a moment of silence, and read a special passage to honor sacrifices that these public servants and their families. I encourage our citizens to honor fire and emergency service personnel, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion duties have rendered invaluable service to the community and to its citizens. And I want to present this. We have Mr. and Mrs. Rob and Judy Basset, and we'll give you this. I think you guys are you traveling back to the National?
We are. We're heading back next week.
Great.
To the memorial. I'm an escort this year for families that.
Come up to the podium so that people can hear you.
You want to speak a little bit about that? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so annually, the National Memorial is held over that weekend that you just described, and all the families of this year's, or should I say, this last year's fallen firefighters and their families are coming there, and they'll be honored, with the flags. And so I volunteered this year to be an escort for one of those families to help them, to support them, in their grieving times, as we got the same.
Great.
So, last year, the fire department, the Globe Fire Department, did a little ceremony on that first Friday. I'm not sure what their plans are this year, but where we did ringing of the bells. So the National Fallen Fighters recommend two things if communities can do. One is you mentioned the Bells Across America, which is you're just ringing a bell and saying something towards someone you know or someone you don't know. And the other is that you change your lighting to red for that day. So whether it's just a porch light or illuminating a fire station or a city building, those are also things that you can do to show support for that. And so I had a few comments from some people about how did they do that type of thing. So I don't know if maybe the city could put out something on social media to help describe that.
That would be great for participation. You bet.
Thank you very much.
Question, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead,
Oh,
Mariano.
thank you. Is this location the one in Emmitsburg, Maryland?
It is.
I've been to classes there. The Emergency Management Institute and also the Firefighting Academy is there as well. And one of the most moving memorials I've ever seen is the Firefighter Memorial. Every firefighter who's fallen in the line of duty is listed in that memorial.
By state.
By state, it's listed by state. And when you walk through that, and that includes our own personnel from Arizona, Prescott comes to mind. But it's a very moving memorial, and I'll never forget it. I'm glad that they do that tribute every year. Thank you, sir.
Yes, they do a very good job of,
Yep.
of supporting the families coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Oh, there, yeah.
Okay, item C is council will receive a presentation from Healthy Families, Child and Family Resources, and we have Kiana Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor and board members. I did send over a PowerPoint. I don't know if that's available to view. Okay. So I am with Child and Family Resources. We're a local in-home visitation program. We've been in Gila County for about 3 years now, almost. The program was in Gila County right before COVID. Once COVID hit, though, it went away for a little while. And so I just wanted to share our services, remind everyone. I know I did like a little blurb a couple months ago, so just another formal presentation. So I have myself, I'm the program supervisor of Gila County, and then I have Leanne Kenton. She's a family home visitor, and then we also have Estina Rublicava. She's a family support specialist, our home visitor as well, and then we just have a new hire, Cheyenne Melser, another family support supervisor. Roughly each home supervisor services about 12 to 14 families at a time. And they can either be at-risk families or just new and expecting parents who just want that extra support. And then we can continue on with the slide, unless I do that here. Okay, I just wanted to share like our mission. We build strong communities where children can reach their full potential. And then our vision is thriving children, healthy communities. We strive to make a difference. We have a work-life balance. So as you see, I have my little boy with me today. We support our coworkers. We try to have that healthy atmosphere as a family with work. And then we do work towards the EDI, treat everyone in an equitable manner, things like that. And then slide. And then our development, we include motivational interviewing, trauma-informed care. We do annual mandated reporting because we are mandated reporters. We do ongoing EDI training. We learn about shaken baby syndrome, helping families navigate that as well, what symptoms, what things to look out for, you know, what to do in those moments, protective factors, and then we also do ACEs, which are the Adverse Childhood Experience screenings, and talk with them on that.
What is motivational interviewing?
Motivational interviewing, the best way to put it is we kind of help families tell us their story in a very inclusive manner. A lot of who, what, when, where, why questions, things like that. Asking them why they think that that moment made them feel the way they did, or just helping them be able to navigate through that scenario. To be eligible for a program, they either just have to be pregnant or have an infant than 3 months old. No income guidelines. The services are free, and it can even be like a grandparent who has the child in their care, just as long as that child is present during our visits. We do diapers, car seats for them, and we work up to 5 years with them. So it's something that we stay with them for a while. And it's all voluntary. At any point, they can enroll if they feel like it, but we try to work up to them.
So you do the car seats too, so you have certified installers for car seats that do them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
And so this is just another explanation of our services being free and effective prevention educational strategies. We bring in curriculum. I'll show you a quick example of that at the end as well. But otherwise, our visits are done in home, or sometimes we meet at the park, we meet at the coffee shop, wherever they're comfortable at, and it's just seeing how they're doing as a parent, and also how their child's doing. We do milestone checklists with them, just help them navigate parenting. I basically explain to our families that we enroll, we want to be that family friend for them. Working on my end. The next slide, I don't know if it's not moving for me, but our next slide is just the list of partnerships that we have in the area. School readiness and literacy, we sign up our families for the Dolly Parton library. We do developmental screenings, so the ASQ screenings. We work with hearing and vision screenings with the U of A cooperative. We do ATOD is what we call it, alcohol, tobacco, other drug screening. It's a voluntary questionnaire that we ask the parents if they're using anything. That's across the platform for all families. And at that point, if any of this comes back positive, then we refer them to resources around town, community bridges, local like substance abuse that they can go to, hotlines, things like that is what we offer for positive screenings. We do what's called a web scale. That's for relationship, how they feel in their relationship, making sure they feel safe, no domestic violence, things like that. We have what's called an HFPI. That's about 60-question questionnaire that helps the parents, that helps us serve the parents and know how we can help them as well. Do they know where to get their birth certificates? Do they know where to go for medical care? Do they have reliable emergency contact? What that support looks like, things like that. We do quarterly parent night and group connection. That's where we bring all the parents involved and enrolled in the program. They do a Zoom night. So for about an hour, we have a craft that the program gives to them and we all connect and get online. And then our group connection is where the families meet in person. Usually we've been meeting at the hospital. They've been really accommodating with us. And we bring in snacks and drinks and just do a really cute family craft for that night. Just everyone to see who's all in the program and kind of have that support. We do also what's called a mystery activity box. Those are quarterly. They usually include a book, a craft for the family to do that relates to the book. That usually is some sort of STEM development for the child. And then we keep wellness checks and vaccination records for them as well. And then also curriculum. And that'll be on the last slide here, an example of what our curriculum looks like for parents. And so this is 2 handout examples. And one of them is like, watch my social emotional skills grow. So from 0 to 6 months old, they can see how their child is developing emotionally and what to expect. And another curriculum that we hand out is called our Helping Other Children Prepare for New Baby. So a lot of the families, either they're new parents or they are the parents who are welcoming another baby with the first and kind of want to avoid that rivalry, and they're nervous about having both kids. And so it just gives them tips, you know, help them change the diaper, help them pick out clothes for baby. It's totally normalizing that feeling that they are feeling. And then the very last page is just a list of just our partnerships in the area. We work with AZYP, we work with our local pediatrician offices. We go on the Copper Basin Coalition meetings. Town of Miami, we've done a couple presentations. I listed City of Globe. We do the Globe Miami Library, so we attend their Music and Me movement or their story time. We also work into BILIS, so we attend BILIS Clinic, work with them as well. WIC, San Carlos Apache Healthcare, Cobra Valley, CBRMC, the health department, just kind of a few things. I've gotten quite a bit more since making this slide, but I just wanted to share that.
Any comments or questions?
Questions?
Mike?
So, Kiana?
Kiana, yep.
Okay. Where is your contact point? How do people get a hold of you folks?
So, a lot of my information's just on the flyer. Like, I have flyers up at the hospital, I have brochures up at the hospital, in pediatrician offices. I put them all around, like, Fry's bulletin, social media is a big one. But I am the program supervisor, but also the, what we call our family assessment worker, which is the enroller for the local families.
Okay, so do you just work in this community, the Globe Miami community, or are you working all over?
So I individually work Globe, Miami, San Carlos, Bailes, but the program itself is all over the United States and actually originated out of Hawaii. So the program's been going over 50 years now.
Okay. Wow. All right, thank you, that answers some of the questions I had.
And you funded state or federal?
We are state
State
funded.
funded.
Yep. So far, thankfully, we haven't had to get into anything, restricting our services. So far, yeah, so far so good.
Good.
One other thing, Mayor.
Go ahead, Mike.
Do you have a telephone number?
I do. I think I put it on the very first slide, but I can read it out or like.
I found it.
Okay.
Yeah.
9658.
No problem. Yeah, I have all of our information there.
Thank you very much, Candace.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item D is we have APS fire mitigation, PSPS presentation. We have Scott Bordenkircher. Say it right? Yes. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, council members, really appreciate you allowing us, APS, to present this evening and talk about fire mitigation. I'm Scott Bordenkircher. I'm our Director of Forestry and Fire Mitigation, so not only have fire mitigation activities for the entire state, but also all of our vegetation management, forestry activities, line clearing, and those things like that. I'm gonna dive right in here. I'm not going to reintroduce everybody to who APS is, you well know it, but probably the only factor off of this page that I do want to mention is about 20% of our system is in what we consider high fire risk areas. Globe is obviously one of those areas. You all know about our northern area as well. But what that means is we do particularly extra efforts in those areas in order to ensure that we are doing everything we can to not only not have our system cause a fire, but also not contribute to a fire, and therefore keep citizens, communities, et cetera, safe. Looks like the clicker's not gonna like me. Thank you. To that end, I do want to spend just a few minutes covering our general fire mitigation efforts before getting to the newest tool in the toolbox, which is the public safety power shutoff. We look at fire mitigation from really 5 pillars. The first one, which really kind of is the first part of my organization, is really around vegetation management. I'm a firm believer that unless we're keeping right-of-ways clear, unless we're keeping lines clear from vegetation, there's really no way on the planet to win this battle or even come close. And so that is our first pillar. It's all of our right-of-way clearing, it's all of our normal vegetation management efforts, plus it's 2 programs that we do outside of our right-of-ways. One is directly around our equipment poles, where we're clearing additional space. Think about DSAP, defensible space around, same way we ask residences and Firewise and other programs like that. And then also a program where we're clearing dead and dying trees outside of our right-of-way in order to make sure that those trees don't fail and fall on power lines. That's a big shout out to our communities, residences, publicly managed lands, because those are really vegetation and trees that we don't have a necessary right to touch. And so being able to have a partnership with those folks and have those relationships where they let us clear those trees and let us deal with those trees is very, very important, and we're very thankful for that. Our second pillar is around what we call grid hardening. So this is how do we make our infrastructure less prone to start fires and then also more resilient to fires on the ground that may impact our facilities. This obviously increases reliability to our customers. So we're constantly doing upgrades of our system. You've all seen that, where we're converting wood poles to steel poles and some of those types of things. But we're also wrapping wood poles with a mesh fireproofing in areas where we can't convert those poles from wood to steel. We also are doing various equipment upgrades, trading out what I will call old style, old technology equipment, which has a propensity to cause sparks to fall even when they operate normally, with newer equipment that doesn't allow that to happen. And so those are some of the programs that we're doing in that space. Our third pillar is around asset inspections. So we inspect all of our facilities across the entire state on some frequency. That depends on the voltage level, depends on the age, depends on the location. But one area where we inspect every single mile, every single year is all of our high fire risk areas. So we actually get out right before fire season, which I'll put in quotes because we know fire season, it no longer exists and there is no longer a season. But I'll call it before the higher risk time of the year. We'll get out and we'll actually walk down every single one of those miles, make sure that those lines and those poles and that equipment is in the best possible shape it can be, and obviously anything we find we then correct right then and there. So again, going into that season, we're in the best possible stance we can be in those high fire risk areas. We use not only foot patrols, visual inspection, helicopters, drones, infrared inspections to be able to see if we have hot spots. So any, again, new technologies we can deploy, we're constantly looking at what's new, what's available out there, what is others in the industry doing, and how can that make us more effective. The fourth pillar, which has really been a big growth pillar for us in the last year and a half, is around monitoring and asset awareness. So we've hired a team of meteorologists at APS. We now have three dedicated and detailed meteorologists at APS that are specifically there to not only understand monsoon storms, normal weather, but then specifically fire weather. So where do we have those areas of low relative humidity? How are wind patterns fluctuating and flowing? To their arsenal then, we have added in new weather stations and new cameras so that they have the ability to actually look on the spot on our facilities, what's happening in that specific area. And then the other item that I want to just point out that we've added in that area this year is artificial intelligence fire sensing cameras. So we're working with a company that actually detects smoke and allows us to not only get indications if a fire starts in our area, but it also, those signals and those notifications go directly to the dispatch centers for the first responders that actually go to those fires. So our intent there obviously is to try and get first response in the area as quickly as possible with potential images and idea of what they need to bring to bear in order to be able to combat that fire as quickly as possible. We've had several instances thus far where those cameras in that system have beat 911 calls, so normal, typical reporting by many, many, many minutes. And we've had instances where first responders have called us and said, hey, we know there's a fire out that direction someplace, but we're not exactly sure where it is. And we can provide triangulation to exactly where the location of that smoke is. The other thing that we've added, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the question, the cameras, I did see a special on that, on the TV with the news and everything. Do you have those in more cameras in more critical areas than you do in other areas of Arizona, or is it more just spread out different areas?
So we are rolling through our high fire risk areas from the highest risk to the bottom of that list. So if you think about the 20% of coverage we need to meet, we expect probably in the next 5 years we'll have blanketed that area, but we started predominantly in the north. We had the big Ponderosa pine stands, but we've now started our work towards the southeast, and then we'll be filling in those areas as the years go by.
The other question I have too is I hear, and I was reading that a lot of the information that was passed on, like for your meteorologists, and these are news people, that because of climate change, funding and resources being cut, that they're not seeing the same amount of information that they have seen in the past. Is that going to hurt us as far as keeping up with what's going on?
So, Mr. Mayor, council members, I don't know that it's going, one of the goals that we have with everything that we're putting up is to be able to share that as widely as possible. So I guess what I will say in answer to that question is, if you have community agencies or county agencies that are struggling to get, for instance, whether it's weather information or camera views, we're happy to have that dialogue, sit down with those folks and share that data and share that information with them to maybe plug some of those gaps. And in fact, one of the items that we put in last year, also kind of in this technology space, is fire modeling software, which allows us to actually track, not just track, but predict where a fire on the ground might go, and it actually uses real-time data like wind flows, et cetera, to predict that. We've already shared that with several fire on the ground incident command centers in terms of questions around, hey, where's your software saying this might go? Where do we need to position folks? Where do you think we might be able to cut off this fire from? So again, just goes towards your question of we will share that as much as we possibly can.
So I interpret your answer as you're not reliant on federal data to determine what you guys need to do.
We certainly pull in several federal and state data sources when they're available. We take advantage of them. But part of this pillar is really about us getting our own equipment out there and our own line of sight out there so that we don't have to rely on it. Not necessarily because of budget cuts and things like that, but as you all know, as I've been just kind of driving around Globe this afternoon, one side of the hill is very, very different than the next side of the hill. And so what we find is even in cases where there's a lot of good government weather station-like data, it may be at an airport, which doesn't still give us a good view, for instance, on the other side of that mountain. The fifth pillar is really around our operational mitigations. So these are things that we do differently when fire risk rises. So we look at fire risk 24/7 constantly in terms of where are the fuels, what's the weather look like, what's the humidity look like, what's the dryness look like. And so we're judging what we do operationally based on that fire risk almost in real time. And so we have several things that we've implemented within APS where we will stop, for instance, planned work. So work that is not caused by like the pole just went down and people are out. We will stop that planned work in high fire risk situations, mostly just so we're not adding to that overall risk. We all know that, you know, you park a car in the wrong place and you have your exhaust over dry weeds or material, you could start something. We obviously in our work use lots of grinders and things like that as we're dealing with heavy equipment. And so taking that risk out of the equation is very important for us. And so we'll actually alter our operations on those days. We've also instituted several red flag warning protocols in our operations centers where we actually change equipment settings, again, all in the purpose or for the purpose of reducing that risk. The side effect of that, and it does not go unnoticed or uncared about by us, is some of those things then do tend to reduce reliability slightly. So for instance, if we're in the highest fire risk time and we have a line trip out, we won't just re-energize that from the control center in Phoenix. We'll have somebody go walk that line down to make sure something hasn't happened to it that could then cause it to start a fire or contribute to a fire that's already in progress. So again, we beg and ask a little bit for the understanding and the patience of our customers in those cases, but truly the intent there is to ensure the safety overall before we just simply re-energize something like that that may have fallen down. So that really takes us to then public safety power shutoff. And this is truly what we look at as simply a tool in the toolbox. It is a tool to be used only in the most severe circumstances. And it's a tool that we're trying to roll out, again, kind of following that same priority list of highest priority to lowest on the fire risk scale. And we've targeted it as best we can to those communities and those areas of communities that are specifically in those risk areas. So for instance, if you've got a town, much like Globe, that is very city focused in one respect, but then has outlying areas, we're not going to turn off power in that inner area. It's going to be those outlying areas where that risk is. Excuse me. Conditions we're looking for: high winds, dryness, heat, rapid ability for fire to spread if it starts. Those are those things that we're really concentrating on. And if in fact that we get to certain threshold levels, then we would potentially make the decision. Sorry, folks. Thank you very much. That's what comes from when your coworker offers you a water and you say no. Thank you all very much. We're checking out those conditions. We're looking at them. We're measuring them. We're measuring them against various circumstances like the design of the towers or structures in that area. We're measuring it against the fuel loading and types of fuels in that area. And again, we're looking at from the standpoint of if a fire starts, how quickly is it going to spread and where is it going to go? In the case where that gets to be an untenable circumstance, then we do have the capability now to turn off power. Let's switch slides, please. And then before I talk about how we kind of do that, the purpose of this slide is to really talk about how we communicate and the work we've done around education and how we kind of see this playing out. And the reason behind that is really because it boils down to this. For us to turn off power, it takes me, I think, I timed it the other day, 52 seconds to walk from my desk to the operations center, point at a switch and have somebody click it. Clearly, that's the easy part. The hard part, though, is what happens then in that community, what happens for those customers when that happens. And so we have taken a lot of time around trying to design this program in such a way that while we believe it is a necessity that we have the ability, we also then have the responsibility to ensure that we've educated and communicated and talked to those communities and those customers that might be affected by it. So to that end, we start with our communication to customers in a good situation, which is to say it is a weather event. So could there be something weird that kind of crosses us off the map? I guess there could be, but we looked back 5 years at all of our weather in Arizona. And what we see is a forecastable event roughly 4 days out. So at 4 days out, we're going to start communicating with all of our customers via every mechanism we have for them. Phone, text, email, cell phone. If they've got another number on their account, we're going to try every single one of those to let them know that, hey, 4 days from now, we believe there may be an event, in which case we're going to need to turn off your power. We will then do that for the consecutive 4 days leading up to the event. Anywhere in there, if the weather improves, if circumstances improve, we'll call it off. But assuming that it doesn't, then again, we'll communicate with them the day of. Your power is going off at this time. Here's how long we believe it might be. Again, that time is going to be predicated by how long the weather event lasts, but at least give them an idea, best we can do from our forecasting, how long that might be, that we can then get that power back on. Once the weather event passes, again, we will do a full patrol of those circuits, of those line miles that we've had off, because we need to now find out, did the wind, did the event cause damage? Once that's done, and as quickly as it can be done, we will start re-energizing customers. And we'll do that just like we do for storms. So we don't look at the whole area and then turn everything on. If we look up at an area up to a switch point, we will then re-energize that area and then keep going. The other thing that we're doing is we're staging resources right from the get-go of this, so that we're not just patrolling or looking with one person or a couple people. We'll have them staged along the length of that circuit, again, with the intent to get people back on absolutely as quickly as we can. So with that, let me just stop there and ask if there are questions.
Questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So,
No, go ahead.
okay. So years ago, I got to be part of the APS Community Partners Program, and they gave us quite a behind the scenes. And I'm wondering if the technology's changed since then, because at that time, when my power went off, I just always assumed that APS knew my power was off, right? But here I am in this control room where they're getting calls at power outages, and they're literally going and putting dots on this board. And then once they get enough dots, they know where to look, where maybe a transformer went out or something happened, right? But they started to narrow it down. And I'm wondering, has that improved since then? Do you know that my power is off, or do you not know that my power is off?
So in most cases, we know. With the advent of AMI, smart metering, we get indications when that occurs. Could something happen that we don't get an indication, i.e. the communications or the cell tower was out that day or something funky was going on? Absolutely. But in most cases, we know. I can tell you that the days of the pins and the maps in our operations center are long gone. All of that is electronic. And so as either meters tell us and or phone calls of residents tell us that their power's out, that all automatically, almost in an AI way, it's not quite AI, but that basically automatically rolls up into transformers and areas, and then those folks are dispatched to come fix it.
Okay. Thank you.
In the case of a PSPS, we would absolutely know, because again, we are planning that very thoughtfully, very distinctly ahead of time, and we know exactly what we're turning on.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I have a concern for people that are on O2 or concentrators or any other medical equipment. What if they don't have backup? I mean, how do we play with that? And then we have a lot of elder people in Clover that, you know, like the grocery stores, I know they use QR codes all the time for coupons, what have you. some of these people don't have, emails, text, whatever. And I see, you can call them. But the concern of mine is the people that are on oxygen and other medical equipment. How would that work?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council Member, I appreciate the question very much. So that's been part of our specificity and our rigor in rolling this out. So really trying to get out to communities and talk to folks and educate them on what might happen, and then work with them to understand what services exist. So the county, pardon me, emergency managers are very, very intricately involved in this program. We've met with them. We've talked about what services they might provide in terms of either shelters or places to charge things, get supplies, that type of stuff, as well as then also their ability to communicate with folks as well. Back to specifically customers who, for us, would fall under our medical monitor program. The urging is really out there to ensure that people register for that program. Folks that are in that program will not only get texts and emails and things like that, but literally personal phone calls from us every day until we reach them to make sure that they are aware something like this is coming. We'll also be holding a community open house town hall kind of thing in your community, where again, we would invite the public to come, learn. We're happy to provide, advice, again, connect them with county emergency management, other services that may be available. And again, I think to me, the key of this is in the education and the prior preparedness. This sounds daunting until you think about the fact that power outages, not by this nature, can occur at any time for any reason randomly. And so our maybe glass half full view on this is we're going to forecast it, we're going to predict it in time, and with enough notice, as long as we're able to get to those folks, they should be able to have services and have the things that they need to not have this be a problem for them.
Is there a way for us to work with medical, like doctors or hospitals or clinics, when they go on a COPD machine or oxygen, that we right then and there just try to get them signed up with you guys so that you're aware of them?
So I'm a little out of my element. I will take that question back and ask our customer service folks who are in that program. I can tell you that I know that we're at the beholden a little bit because of HIPAA and things like that, that folks have to kind of self-identify, right? We can't go look at records, but certainly if we can get the word out in like community hospitals, community doctors' offices that, hey, when you have a patient, encourage them to make that phone call to APS, absolutely. We'll take that assistance and that partnership all day long.
I have a couple questions. So what would be a threshold for a significant weather event? What would those thresholds be from your meteorologists?
So, Mayor, Council members, it varies depending on the area. And that's typically because of circumstances around how facilities are built, potentially the age of those facilities, as well as what the weather patterns and fuel patterns look like in those areas. So again, you're talking single-digit relative humidity. So in other words, fuels don't have a chance even at night to wetten back up, right? They stay dry, they get dry during the day and they stay dry, those circumstances. Wind speeds, again, we're talking double-digit wind speeds. Again, it will vary by circuit, by area, but we're not talking your 10-mile-an-hour kind of summer breeze type of thing. We're talking relatively severe and extreme winds. When you think about maybe the winds that you get during a monsoon, although obviously without the rainfall.
Okay. So based off of, you said that they took historical data, your meteorologists have taken historical data. So taking historical data within the city of Globe proper and understanding that, how many of those days that you took would the city of Globe see a significant event?
Great question, sir. So in the last 7 years, we would have called 0.8 per year across our entire APS service territory. If you shorten that just to Globe itself, it becomes less than about 0.3. So in other words, very, very, very seldomly, you're looking at kind of those 50-year kind of weather events that knock on wood, hopefully we don't have. Last year when we had PSPS, it was the first year we had this tool, not in this community, but we had it in other areas of the service territory. We did not have to call a PSPS across our entire service territory.
And based off of that data, could you tell how long the power would have been out? Not accounting for having to go and look at the lines, but just based off the event.
So we expect that normally wind in Arizona, unlike California, think about their multi-day scenario with the Santa Ana winds. Most of our winds are a day event that are usually over in 4 to 5 hours, depending. So that's what we typically see.
And you talk about being able to call these people that, and Vice Mayor stated it, if they were on oxygen, CO2, or they were on, any of these life altering machines. Mm-hmm. Does APS have somewhere that these people can go to on their website that is tailored to the municipality or the city that they're in, that then they could go and say, okay, APS has identified these are places that these people can go. If they're thinking that, okay, a normal power outage is going to last me maybe 2 days, 1 day, 2 days, so their little backup generator that they have or whatever they have at home can last them that long. But if a significant weather event lasts longer than that, has APS done that for them? Do you have somewhere on your website where they can say, oh, you're not going to turn off the power at this hospital, there's this resource for you? Is that available for them?
So when a PSPS gets called, on our outage map, it will show, just like it does for storm outages, where the shelters are, where the facilities are. I mean, typically in storms, it's dry ice and those kinds of things. This obviously would expand to charging stations, rest stations, cooling stations, those types of things. Those services are going to be, again, provided by the county EMs because that's their expertise and their bailiwick. They will bring in Red Cross to help with those areas. But on our site, it would specifically say exactly where they are, how to get there, those types of information.
And is that going to be a cost then to the county, and the county looking for grant money for that, or is APS going to come in at that point and say, let us help the communities that we service, and because we've shut off the power for this long, you don't have to look for a grant?
So in the counties that we have already worked with and talked to, they're prepared to do what they normally need to do. They've got the funding for it, et cetera. I'm sure just like we do today when, for instance, APS covers dry ice and things like that, we will certainly be a part of that solution. Okay. We're not going to stand back and let it happen. We will help as we can.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, that's all I have.
Mike? In your, I think it was the second point about grid hardening investments. You mentioned taking care of wooden poles in the residential areas within the town. Is that a program that you guys have initiated, or is that just an idea?
So when we have compromised wood poles, whether they came down because of a storm, et cetera, our first look will be to replace any of those poles with steel poles. So that is an active, call it standard / thing that happens. We are starting to take a look at some of these areas now specifically for removing those wood poles and replacing them with steel ahead of time, but that also comes with a cost. And so we're very much also looking at what's the health of that pole, what's the value proposition of doing that. So the most right now are done when that pole is either end of life or compromised in some manner, storm, car, et cetera. But it is something that we're looking at to broaden.
What's in the life of a pole?
So we do it by look and test.
Look and test, okay.
Yep.
I'll talk to Rich about it.
Yeah, no, it's not an age-based thing because we've still got some poles that are 70, 80 years old that are as strong as the day we were put in. But we have a whole different topic, but we have a whole set of pole testing programs where literally we'll bore holes and check out the insides and the whole 9 yards.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, comments. I guess, this is something that's gonna be new to the public out there, and again, communication is gonna be vital to doing that. You talked about a town hall for them and everything, but I'd like to just reassure that our community that we've been aware of this a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of stakeholders were in that meeting. Not only the city of Globe, but working together with the county, Town of Miami, ADOT. I mean, every organization is involved in this, and we have to come up with an emergency plan. That's the key to making it successful. We know we're going to have to target these areas that need to be addressed, especially people like Mike talked about with oxygen and everything. I mean, this is something that's just going to take a lot of communication. I'm very confident that our community will come up with an emergency plan that will handle this situation. And I understand what APS is doing too. There's a lot of liability with the spread of fire, you know, and winds and drought in the situation we're in. So I think it's important that we push that people sign up for what's called a medical emergency program. Because that's how they'll get notified. And if we have a neighbor that we know that is on oxygen, we need to educate them. I mean, we need to take care of our neighbors, you know, ourselves. So I think it's all up to us and a plan that's gonna be in place.
Mayor, I very much appreciate that. One of the things that we found, and you know, this is year 2 and kind of subset 2 of adding communities, but where we've had success has been that willingness and that partnership on both sides. And I will tell you, you know, we've got Richard Rosales is in the audience, who I know you all know very well. He takes care of the town of Globe for us from a community affairs perspective. We are more than happy to assist in any way, shape we can with formulating those plans, with helping you think through them. I'm not saying that we're the experts in that space from a city perspective, but we've sure got some others now that we can look at and rely on that have been done in other spaces, as well as a great deal of work by the county EMs.
You bet. I think that it happened this last weekend where we lost power, where they lost a power pole in Central Heights. And a large area lost power, but right away, I know on my phone, I got a text, my address saying your power is out and this is the anticipated downtime. So it's important to get those messages, and we got it when it was back up too.
Outstanding.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the question to Scott. Did you talk about the mailers that will be coming out?
Oh.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that question, mayors and council members. So this week, folks that are in those public safety power shutoff areas will be getting to their home address actual brochures that explain the program and will specifically say, hey, you are in an area that could be impacted by this. It will have information on what it is. It will have information on, you know, kind of what we predict in terms of how often we would have to use it or how long it would last, as well as then those reminders to make sure that contact information is up to date in aps.com. For those that don't want to go jump on the internet, you're more than welcome to call our call center and just again make sure that your information's updated, your phone numbers are correct, and then to your point, Mayor, especially for those medical monitor customers, making sure that they register for that program and get their information in, because they again will also get not just electronic outbound contacts, but very specific information. Folks will also be getting in their mailbox, I think it's a week after or so, and you should have been getting these now for quite some time, but we do send a postcard just about general fire awareness as we kind of head into fire season. That postcard will be coming out to all of the folks in our high fire risk areas, regardless of whether they're in a PSPS area or not. That again, just reminds about keeping defensible space around your own home, making sure you have supplies ready. Have you thought about a plan for yourself and your family? And again, then reiterating the need to ensure we have good contact information, et cetera. Thank you for asking that question.
And in all fairness, John reminded me. So.
I have one more question.
You got a question? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. Scott, do you guys, I know we keep talking about a town hall. Do we have a town hall scheduled already for this?
We do not, I believe we were talking May, early May.
We're working on it? Okay.
Early May, sometime early May.
Okay, and have you chosen a spot for that? Something like with this importance would need to go to a large auditorium, not a city council meeting.
Yes, we are working on it. We're looking at some big auditorium, similar to what we did, probably maybe Miami High School,
Okay.
or it's central for both locations.
Okay.
So yes, we'll get the word out when we get that scheduled and everybody ready to go with it, so.
Okay. So how would you put the word out? Similar
social
phone
media,
calls, mailers.
newspaper, we'll share. We can maybe do an email blast with our customers. We'll see how, what we will get the word out.
Okay.
Fernando?
I just have a request. We have telephone poles literally, or power poles literally in the middle of our sidewalks, and my understanding is that the surveyor did something wrong many, many years ago, and that's where they ended up. But if we're gonna get rid of a pole, could we work together and maybe get it out of the sidewalk? That would be nice.
We will share that interest and that desire, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you all very
Richard.
much. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
So item E, we're gonna have a Firewise presentation by Chief Robinson. All important stuff is, fire season is year-round now, it's not one season anymore.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Had the opportunity today to participate in a community forum with numerous members of the community, stakeholders, related to Firewise and some of the benefits that it can be within our community. I know there's been a lot of, we've seen a lot more interest in I think we're running out of batteries. We've seen more interest in this type of program throughout the community, and wanted to just take a couple of minutes and go through what this process might look like to implement within the community. And we can go to the next one, please. So there's some basic steps that go along with being recognized as a Firewise community. It requires some type of organization, and I'll go through these a little bit more individually as we go. A plan has to be created, that plan has to be implemented, as well as reported on, and then that plan has to be updated as we go along. So, next one, please. One of the things that was emphasized today with the presentations that were given, Firewise is meant to be a grassroots type of effort. The majority of Firewise programs you find across the nation are created and implemented and managed by neighborhoods, by a geographic region, primarily by the people that live within that region. There are very few out there that are municipally managed, that are managed by fire departments. Superior gave an example of theirs. There's some limitations that go along with a Firewise recognition for a community. Some of those limitations include a minimum number of households and a maximum number of residences that can be included within an area. So when you start looking at that, it's important that those are defined and known. The fire department, the forestry partners that are out there, their role typically in these is to support those efforts. The Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management had numerous personnel there. One of the individuals I had a chance to visit with is Captain Chris Reed from the Department of Forestry. He talked a little bit about and mentioned some of what they're able to offer in terms of support. None of the Firewise program is code based. It's not codified in law. It's not funded it's not funded directly by any source. It's a grassroots volunteer effort to make a difference within a given community, within a given geographic region of a community. And that has to be defined as part of the plan. One of the things that we see with the city, because of the number of residences that sit within the city, is you know, you would probably need at least two defined areas. Were you to try to incorporate the whole city in this, you would need at least two defined areas to meet the requirements of maximum number of households that could be included within an area. So those boundaries would have to be defined. Typically, those are defined a lot of times by HOAs, a lot of times by neighborhoods that decide to go after and seek this type of designation. Next slide. From there, a plan has to be created. Part of that is completion of a wildfire risk assessment, and that wildfire risk assessment goes through a number of different areas, and it's a fairly straightforward assessment. And I'm looking for the notes I took so I can kind of give you a little bit of an example. It looks at infrastructure in the area, what type of water infrastructure, and it gives it a rating by number. There's an assessment sheet that does this. It looks at, what type of construction of buildings do you see in the area? What type of fire protection systems are there? What are the road systems into a given neighborhood like? For instance, an area considered to be at risk or at a higher risk would be an area that only has one road in and one road out to a neighborhood. It looks at the dead-end roads, lot sizes, all this, and they take that and they compile that information and they create an assessment that gives you an idea of the risk level as determined by their rating score that they use within the community. From there, as you start to put the plan together and your application for submission for recognition, you can take a look at things that have been done within our community already. For instance, the efforts that have gone on along the creek bed within the community through downtown. Those efforts can be highlighted in there and used as a part of the mitigation schedule and hours that are compiled in relationship to that plan. The primary focus of Firewise is to look at individual properties, to take and they have an assessment sheet, an assessment scoring sheet for each individual property, and you look at things like, what type of landscaping is present? Is that landscaping managed? What type of building materials are used? What type of, do they have decks? Do they have fencing that potentially creates an issue? Do they have wood piles that are directly up adjacent to a home? All of those things go into an assessment. These assessments are typically done by volunteers within the community or within the neighborhood. If you have a neighborhood, Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management will put on classes free of charge for assessors. You take a one-day class that qualifies you to be a Firewise assessor. You can go out and you can look and help your neighbors, help your community identify what can be done within each individual residence to be able to help mitigate the wildfire risk. One of the things we talked a little bit about, in the meeting was this community has been impacted by larger scale wildfires over the last few years, but we historically see more loss due to small incidents that occur. We see somewhere a fire starts, that fire may spread to a neighbor's house, to a couple of neighbors' houses. We tend to see more loss from that than we've seen from larger scale incidents. And so, anything we can do individually at that individual level, at that individual occupancy level to help mitigate a risk of a wildfire spreading, primarily as a result of embers or embers that will fall within a receptive fuel bed right next to a home that then is somehow carried into that home. Anything we can do to help mitigate that is of the greatest value when it comes to preventing these type of incidents from spreading from one location to the next.
Dan, you got a question?
Does becoming a FireWise community affect our ISO ratings?
That I'm aware of, no. There are, I think there's always efforts out there to put in place legislation that has different impacts as a result of this. What you do see though in terms of ISO stuff is community risk reduction plans. So there is potentially an impact there, but I would have to research how much it goes in, because that all plays into, for instance, the adoption of our new fire code for the city. That helps us. So receiving a FireWise designation, I would say it probably does have the potential, but to definitively say yay or nay, I couldn't do that until I researched that a little bit further.
I think just a question to follow up with, since we have an insurance person here. I think the big concern statewide is the people that are receiving notices of their cancellation of policy home, that they're not insuring homes because of the wildfire designation they have in their communities. Does FireWise help us? How do we keep the insurance companies from taking away our insurance and for certain areas? I mean, Prescott's going through it right now. It's going to affect economic development. It's going to affect housing. Nobody's going to want to buy there if you can't insure a home.
It's affecting us now, yeah.
Is that-
There are businesses that cannot get.
Yeah.
So what happened is insurance companies look at history.
Right.
So when you have 4 major forest fires in the last 12 years, they're like, whoa. And so even though the fuel load now is
Right.
much reduced than it was, they should have been worried about fires when there was a bunch of stuff to burn. Now it's all burned, and they're worried about forest fires. And so it's been tougher. And even the companies that, like, I'm not limited by where your house is. I'm limited about how far away you are from a fire department.
Right.
And what you're doing to your own property to make it FireWise. So if you're like in an area where it's prone to fire, then I got to go through a checklist to say, are you doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this? But yeah, it's going to be tough, because if they pull out and we can't get anybody to insure anything, how do you finance something? No one wants to finance something if it's not insured. So it's tough.
Yeah. Thank you.
So along with that assessment, that's going to help guide the creation of a 3-year plan for efforts that have to occur, or that need to occur within the community or the neighborhood that has it. Next slide, please. From there, it's an implementation of that plan. Part of what has to occur to maintain that recognition as a FireWise community is efforts have to occur within the community. Typically, that's documented, or the required need to maintain that recognition is 1 hour of documented time per identified household within that designated area. So whatever area that plan covers, if it covers 25 homes, typically you need 2,500 hours of documented volunteer time throughout the course of a year to meet the requirements of maintaining that recognition as a FireWise community. And so, a lot of that information has to be compiled. When it comes to the organization of this, the organization requires some type of board or commission that can be made up of. It can be made up of volunteers. It can be made up of community members. It can be made up of, it may involve a mixture of stakeholders, fire department, council members, community members, but you have to have some type of board that oversees the plan, oversees the reporting that occurs with it, and usually a commissioner that oversees, or that directly oversees that board or commission. Because you do have requirements to keep that up. That plan has to be updated regularly as well. Next slide. And reporting, it becomes, every 5 years, you have to see an update to the assessment. Every 3 years, you look for updates to the plans. So there's different components to it. So, your assessment may indicate a need to do efforts that weren't originally identified in your original assessment and plan that you made. So it requires ongoing work by that commission, by that group to be able to maintain this. Next. So what now? For us, we had the opportunity I had the opportunity to visit with Chris and to get a better idea of what the recommendations were in terms of their support to be able to move something forward. His recommendation was that to look at those areas within our community that may be a higher risk within our, we start talking about, we've identified areas within the presentation that was just given, Public Safety Power Shutoff, identifies areas within the community where they've identified a higher risk. Potentially engaging individuals within those communities or those areas within the community to begin this process, to work on identifying potentially a group of citizens that would be willing to form a commission for Firewise, would be willing to do that. Then, as a department, we would help support that. As the Department of Forestry and Fire Management, they can help support that. And those efforts can be implemented, a plan can be made, and that work can start occurring towards a potential Firewise designation for those geographic areas. That was the recommendation that he provided, because you tend to see, those areas, you tend to see when you have a grassroots effort that takes hold and starts to move, they see more success from that than they see, in most other attempts at working towards some type of designation. I'll entertain any other questions.
So is this something that we're moving forward with, or is this something that we gotta decide, or?
So this is something that, that I think, it does hold a lot of value for our community, again, especially for areas that may be a little bit more impacted when it comes to things such as public safety power shutoffs and that. We have, we live in an area that, that we have a lot of terrain, we have a lot of washes. There's been efforts that the city has done. We have public properties, public right-of-ways that probably need work as well. And so, I think this is a great opportunity to start to engage individuals in it, because it is, that what it boils down to is this is, in a lot of instances, it's an individual effort, because those property owners have work that they have to do or have to, bring somebody in to do. Granted, in our area, we don't have the vegetation types that, say the northern part of the county has, which makes that workload maybe a little bit easier to manage, but it still has to be done. And giving them a tool, going out and giving them an assessment to say, hey, you can do these things, and you've gone a long ways toward reducing the wildfire risk in your home is a great way to do that. But we would want to, again, if we seek to do this as a community or as neighborhoods within the community, I think our chance of success are better. And again, that's how, that's the recommended methodology that DFFM is putting out there, because they see greater success that way.
So who does the initial risk assessment?
So it's those individuals that are trained.
Or you gotta do the training in order to get the risk assessment?
It's individuals that are trained. When it comes to the initial assessment, DFFM will come out and assist with that. What they'll do is, DFFM would come out and work with me. We'd probably sit down with John in terms of some infrastructure stuff, looking at different neighborhoods. If for instance, we chose to do this for the Crestline neighborhood. You know, we would look at all the infrastructure within the Crestline, the home construction, all of those things, that criteria that they do, and they would help with the initial assessment. From there, then you start to do individual home assessments within that neighborhood. And that's done by those volunteers that are trained up as assessors. You know, I have one trained right now as a Firewise assessor. We'd probably train some more of our staff to help with that effort, because, you know, it is a value to the community, and we are out in the community fairly regularly. So it'd be the opportunity would be there to reach out to us to help facilitate that, or to have somebody within that neighborhood facilitate that's been through the training.
So you could have a neighborhood within the city that has a Firewise designation, because you're gonna run into neighborhoods that won't be as aggressive as other neighborhoods.
Correct.
There may be some that don't wanna do it.
Correct.
Or won't have somebody step up, but you can have a neighborhood that's designated if they go through the whole and meet the criteria.
Correct. Okay. And that geographic area would be, you know, they would come out, they would put signs up in the neighborhood, you know, identifying that as a Firewise recognized area.
Interesting. Any other questions or comments for Chief?
Mayor, we have a lot of, this is hill country, we have a lot of hillsides and empty properties that are not treated, that are full of weeds. And the classic example is always the cemetery. We seem to always have a problem with trying to keep just the cemeteries clear. But there are a lot of hillsides that are untreated, private property, the ravines, areas that no one lives there, but it's owned by someone and they're unmitigated. And those kinds of circumstances would pop up under a risk assessment. And I think that eventually we should set up some kind of mechanism to score in those processes what empty properties need to be mitigated first. Because as you know, if that runs in a fire, that's usually where it goes to. And it becomes larger, and in a certain type of a set of conditions can run very, very quickly and burn very hot. And I think that's the first step, is to get our people trained if we want to have this kind of a program, and to inspect those kinds of areas. And I think they would pop up right away. And this isn't at denigrating or downgrading the property owners, but to identify a list of needs, I think, is the end result on this first stab, once we get some people trained up. And then we can assess what the priorities are. And I think we need to do this, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I've seen it done in other parts of the state, and northern Gila County especially. And once you can get people to buy into the processes, they step forward with what they've seen. And it adds to the body of knowledge for the assessments that need to go forth. And I think it's a worthy project to take a stab at. And he pointed out one thing: there's no local funding, or rather any federal funding or state funding for this. This is one of those, if we're gonna do it, we have to pay for it somehow, some way. And find the mechanisms to get the training done, and then the mechanisms to do the time and the work and the resources to do the clearing that we're going to need to do. There's no magic badge that you earn, but I guarantee you the next fire that happens in a neighborhood, they're all going to breathe a sigh of relief, because they mitigated something and it didn't get away from them because it was taken care of. And I guess that's a grassroots approach to doing something here. And that's what I heard from Superior. Yes, they had the impetus of the Telegraph fire, of course, but they proceeded with what they had wanted to do before, during, and after the fire, and they got it done. And I see no reason for this region to continue along those lines. We've got to do something. And I know the county is doing some mitigation along the highways, but it's the neighborhoods that are in danger. And there's at least one property owner today that mentioned he does his own mitigation out there in Central Heights. And he's done it for years. He doesn't get a badge of honor for it. He just does it because it's got to get done. So I think as a regional approach, we should take a hard look at it to see if we can spearhead something. We've done some good things in the last couple of months about clearing away debris and cleaning up property and doing cleanups. This is beyond that. These are areas that are still needing treatment, And as I said, they did it in the northern part of the county and were able to commit to it. There were chipper shredders purchased, fire pits dug, all for the collection of the debris that they were able to pull out of areas. And it's helped tremendously. So the fire load is mitigated or gone down quite a bit. As I said, we are hill country. We have an awful lot of growth on unmanaged hillsides, which lead down to the neighborhoods. If we can get a handle on that, doesn't matter which way the wind is blowing, we're able to mitigate that. And that makes for a better day at the end of a wind event or a fire event. It only takes 15 miles an hour to blow and burn. And so this is something I think that we should take a hard look at it, trying to support in some way.
You know, and to your point, you know, the reason it needs to be, you know, it needs to be driven by members in the community is because you do have to rely on them to do the work around their properties. And the more a community can get each other engaged in it, the more likelihood for success. Because, you know, typically we can't go mitigate their property. You know, there are community funds, grants out there that have been identified and have been used, for instance, to support a Firewise designated area in some of the mitigation stuff through volunteers, through work hours that people have contributed from potentially outside of the community, but primarily of volunteers that have gone in and helped individuals who may not be able to complete the level of work that needs to be done within there to be able to support those efforts as well. So.
One last question that I have is, if I want to start initiating in my neighborhood, who would I start with, you or Chris?
So that conversation could begin with me, and what we would do is we would pull Chris in to that conversation, and we would start to look at, you know, first of all, that organization. You know, who can we engage? Who can we get involved in to form that organization that you would need for the neighborhood in order to begin to move that process forward?
I just want to share real quick. I had a customer who lived in Chandler, and they moved up by Lynx Lake up in Prescott. And so I went up there to look at their property, and they had 100 trees within about 100 feet. And I was like, yeah, no, you can have trees, but they can't have this continuous feed coming across here. And his wife hated me for about 1.5 years until they had the forest fire up there. And then they called me and thanked me because they had defensible space. Right. And so it's just things that you do, like you don't store the wood up next to the house for your fireplace, your wood burning stove, and keeping the gutters clean. But there's a lot of stuff. So I think sometimes people think Firewise and they're like, oh, I can't have anything. No, it's not. It's not. But yeah, it has to be defensible.
It's managed.
And it is something that can be done with a little bit of planning, so.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item F has been tabled till a future meeting.
Yeah, either the next or the following meeting. We need to coordinate that with
Okay.
LaCoya.
Okay.
But she's unable to appear tonight.
Okay. So we'll go to consent calendar. Matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion, one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and/or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. Item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Accounts payable is $641,500.67. We also have the under $25,000 report. And item C is consideration to approve the fall bed tax distribution request for the Southern Hill County Economic Development Corporation for the first and second quarter of fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $25,556.25, funded from account 10-51-51910, General Fund Community Organization, SGEDC. Item D, consideration to approve the fall bed tax distribution request for the Culver Valley Center for the Arts for the first and second quarter fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $25,556.25, funded from account number 10-5151-920, General Fund Community Organizations, Culver Valley Center for the Arts. Item E is consideration to approve the fall bed tax distribution request for the Globe Downtown Association for the first and second quarter of fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $25,556.25, funded from account number 10-5151-915, General Fund Community Organization Globe Downtown Association. Do we have anybody from the public, staff, or council wishing to remove any item for separate consideration?
No questions or comments, Mayor? I motion to approve as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Item 5, new business. 5A, consideration of City Council Resolution number 1902 to grant approximately 516 square feet for a public sidewalk easement on Gila County, Arizona assessor parcel number APN 207-15-105B. Shelley, can you read resolution number 1902, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1902, resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, accepting a public sidewalk easement from Washington Federal Bank, parcel number 207-15-105B, to the city of Globe, and authorizing the execution and recording of said resolution within the city limits of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, pursuant to applicable Arizona revised statute. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, Travis could not attend the meeting tonight, but I just wanted to go over with you, what this is actually work with Washington Federal on their, plan review. One of the things that was incorporated, what needed to be done, this sidewalk easement would be on the Blake Street side. As you know now, the facility, the way it is, and the way they're gonna be tearing the whole thing down and cleaning that lot and getting ready for the build. But you know, right now, on the Highway 60 is the only access point in and out. What this easement would be doing is allowing that, for the city to have that additional access point where the sidewalk would continue around the radius there. And on the agreement, it's not really any different on the maintenance side of it for the city, because we already have the IGA with ADOT, and we actually do the maintains, you know, part of that agreement is to maintain the sidewalk. So that's what this would be working towards. Any questions, comments?
John, are they tearing the back buildings down too? Is that gonna be all of it too? They have the back portion of it?
I believe, no, it's not.
No, just the front.
It's more towards the front, yeah. But it's actually, where, when you wrap around that whole thing, it's actually where the drainage comes along the side of the facility, but that back building, actually, it's separate.
It will remain.
Yeah, once they open it up, you'll see really how big the lot is. And that's what the biggest thing is, because of the drainage that's there on Lake Street, and then just cleaning that sidewalk up, and it does make it safer for the pedestrian traffic there.
So will both of these be exit and entrance areas then, or one will be designated exit or an entrance?
Tony, are you familiar with that? They're both exit and entrance combined, correct?
On the bank side or?
Yes, on the Blake Street side.
Drive-through exit?
Yes.
And then, cut in on the, highway side?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you, John.
Is it ready for a motion? I would move
Any
to-
other questions?
I would move to approve, council resolution number 1902.
Second.
Motion second for approval of resolution number 1902 as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and abstaining. Motion passed. Thank you, John. Thank you. Item B is discussion and possible approval of contract number CS-2025-0160 with Weber Water Resources for $115,637 for the City of Globe Well 4 pump replacement funded through 5080520001, and direct the city manager to make a line item adjustment within the water department budget from 5080530002 capital projects reserve to 5080520001 well pump repair line item in the amount of $100,000. This is funding that is set aside for the unanticipated project for the fiscal year 24-25 budget and is not part of the 20% operations undesignated contingency still reserved in 5080-53000. The balance of the capital project reserve will be $267,710. The balance in undesignated contingency will remain at $435,512. Vince.
I did not write that.
It's a lot of numbers, Vince.
Members of the council, I'm gonna set this up for Vince. Vince is gonna talk about the well, and then I'll come back and talk about the funding. Okay, so, because we're moving some money around in addition to spending money, but moving the money. And then we would like to ask you to waive the rule at the end of this one if you can. But so you know that and most of you I think have heard the story. Well 4 has some issues, and Vince is gonna explain why that is. We had looked at using some of the 595 money to repair well 4 in the future, but that's not gonna work. So we're gonna stick with our 595 money going out to the water line, to duct a water line out to the fairgrounds. We need to buy some time until we have the funding to repair well 4. The goal, the long-term solution is to just drill another one. This thing's been in the ground for 50 years. Vince will explain how it's collapsed. But we need to buy some time because we don't want to be down a well. It's just good. We can get this one functioning in the background. So we're asking for this replacement wellhead so we can buy about 2 to 3 years. We will not be budgeting, staff will not be budgeting the full repair of well 4 in this budget cycle until we get a handle on the revenues that the water rate changes will bring in and some WIFA decisions. But this will buy us 3 years. We will budget in the 2026 the money to replace the well, the 1.2, and it'll be about a year process to go to do the procurement, get the well actually drilled, and get it optimized and functioning. But for now, Vince, do you want to explain what happened to well 4 and how this pump is going to buy us 3 years?
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. So yeah, just a little history. In 2020, we did just a routine maintenance of our plan there to pull the pump, do a brush and bale, videos, rehab of the bowls, and rewindings of the motor. It's usually what we do when we do the rehabs on the wells. At that time, when they did the video, the fill, they call it the fill level. That's like where the debris falls and then the sand comes in and kind of sits there. It was at 1,041 feet in 2020. Static water level was at 694, and the pump was set at 900 feet. In 2021, we started seeing some, our trends on our flow were kind of going up and down. They didn't know what to do. We called in the professionals. They think it was kind of starting to, the drawdown was less than where the bowls were. So we added 60 feet to that in 2021, putting the pump at 960 feet. A little later in 2024, around August, at the end of this high demand time, September-ish, we started to see the flow rate start to fall. We didn't really think anything at first, and then we saw it really starting to fall. By the end of it, we were only down to like 67 gallons per minute. So we called the professionals in, they pulled the pump out. The bowls were just gone because it had eaten up a bunch of sand in there. Those bowls spinning like as fast as they go, as long as they do, it's just like sandpaper in there. So when they did the camera again, the fill level was at 988 feet. Before it was at 1,041. Static water level had dropped to 703 feet. That's below the surface of the top of the well there. They came back, after they did video, they brushed and they did the bale. When they're going down, they kept hitting an obstruction where they couldn't break through at 1,000 feet. They brought in a different bit. They thought maybe, well, something's in there, let's jam it hard and break through it. They still couldn't break through it. They let it settle, all the debris that was disturbed, they let it settle. They did another video. To the best guess, they think that there's a large hole in there, a perforation that kind of ripped open just because rusted out and kind of got loose and maybe ground shifted, they don't know. But it opened up, and now it's letting in a lot more sand. So now the plan for us now is to buy a new pump, like Paul said, to buy us some time to drill a whole new well, deeper, longer lasting water for us. We're gonna set the pump at 900 feet, but this one we're gonna do a little different. We're gonna add a VFD, if you guys, a variable frequency drive, I think we got explained to you guys once, it's kind of like an electrical gas pedal for an engine. We can ramp up the motor to, you know, control how much flow we're pulling out of the water or out of the ground. So we're gonna set that at 900 feet and try to shoot for 300 gallons per minute. Back when, in 2020, we were sitting around like the 500 gallon per minute. So we figure we're better getting some water rather than no water. So that's our plan. That's the history. You got any questions?
Questions?
So you're gonna drill another well in the vicinity of the current well?
That's the plan, yes. In the future, whenever we find the funding.
Fernando?
I've never asked this, but it's always, we're gonna drill another well. Why can't you drill in the same well? Is there a reason you can't do that?
Well, I'm not sure if we'd have to drill through the metal casing that's torn.
So there's a metal casing in there.
Yeah, so there's a casing that has perforations, which lets the water fall. And then there's the intercom. It's kind of like the train. It's kind of like an engine. There's the motor, the drive line, and then the bowls. So it'd be like your engine, your drive line, your rear end. So it's similar to that. So there's, obviously we pull out the guts, but then you have that casing, and there's a tear in there. So, I mean, it may be possible. I'm not sure, honestly.
So right now, here if I could.
Go ahead, just.
So right now it's pulling how much, 67 gallons per minute, or do you have it completely offline?
Right now, it's out of the hole. It's torn apart. It's been sitting with Weber Water Resources. They're the ones that pulled it. They found that the bowls were just
With
nothing
it
there.
being pulled out and taxing the other wells, what kind of strain is that putting on there, and how's our water right now?
Yeah, Frank Brody is here. He's been concerned about it. So 2 weeks ago, we approved to purchase a new motor for well number 3 because well 3 was down and 4 was down. We've been relying on well 2 and 5 a lot. So they came in today. They started installing the new motor on well 3. So that's a big relief for us. Right now we're keeping up and we're starting the high demand season right now. So we are keeping up through that whole time we were keeping up because it was the low demand. Right now it's starting to get close. Like with what we can pull out of the ground and ship to town, we're good.
We're okay right now?
We're okay, yes. But when it gets hotter, without well 3.
With high demand, without
right.
well 3, and then well 4 being completely
right.
down.
But well 3's coming back online.
Can we keep up with demand in the city
Yes.
based off of what we have?
Yes. Yes.
And for how long?
The whole summer.
Okay. How much is?
Go ahead.
How much is it if we were to just purchase a whole brand new well? A whole new machine.
At the end of it was like around 1.4.
1.4.
In a year.
And a year long.
Yeah, if we ride the truck right now, we have the money sitting in the bank ready to go. Procurement, drilling, and then optimizing, because once you drill it, you still gotta get it clean. Not clean, but get the sand, the sediment out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we would need this anyway. Okay. And we ran through about 3 different scenarios. We were looking at a pump that was on top and sucked from the bottom. We looked at a couple, like a real short term The long term is drilling a new one. This is kind of the midterm. We call it the sacrificial pump, because it's gonna be down there, it's gonna be sucking sand. We're gonna bring it up about 300 feet, so it doesn't get as much sand, but the closer you get to the surface, then it pulls you can't run it as high RPM, because it'll suck the air down. So that's why the playing with the throttle on it. But, no, like I say, if this was totally down, we could make it through the summer, but we would be with no backup.
This is still pulling, correct? The pump, the well right here is still pulling minimally, or it's out completely?
No, we shut down Pine Street well because we did sampling, and that one came back with PFAS.
Okay.
So right now we just once a month we pump a little to waste just to keep the mechanics working and everything working.
Mayor and council, I just wanted to add also too, just when we're talking about doing a new well, we've also looked at the Explorer. When we talk about the dollar amount, of course, that's gonna change within the period of however long it may take. But one is, we talked about doing it within the area of the permit, so we don't have to go through the whole, another permitting. Of course, there's the permitting process we have to follow for doing a new well, but we're staying within that footprint. And then we're also, the cost of a lot of the electronic equipment, by staying within that radius, we're gonna use that same equipment and transferring that over. And then last but not least, some of the measures that the staff normally takes this time of year, we're gonna run our tanks at mid-level, so there's that, that production that's going on there. But summertime, usually Frank and Vince will working with their SCADA system, they increase the levels. That's why when we did all the work with their tanks, it's beneficial, because they raise the level up there. So the overnight, the drawdown throughout the day with the high demand, that's always something that they always compensate for, and that's where the other systems are key for monitoring that.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, we do have a backup, because we can pump water from Arizona water into our system or vice versa, right? We had that set up at one time.
Excuse me, sorry. They're not pumps, but they are interconnect valves that work off of pressure, yes, that they could open if needed.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilman Shipley, Vince, that's in a case of a fire,
Right.
if one's running dry, I think when it drops to 15 pounds, it'll open up from Arizona water, or the same if they're running dry because it's coming off their hydrants, ours will open up, and that was a key result of the settlement and the solution with that Arizona water agreement.
Vince, a question on well 4, then doing the temporary fix, how long will that take to get it up and going?
Actually, I was on the phone with them today because they came up on well 3, and they're excited that it's coming tonight, to council tonight, and that way they can get it on their schedule, and he wants to get it in by May, end of May.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then one question, that's a pump that runs all the time then?
No, none of them run all the time. Like, Broly will have them set out there. He'll put one in a lead, one in a lag, and one in like a standby.
Okay.
And he rotates them often. They all get a break, and and then the water source recovers in that area, and he's watching those constantly.
We treat our wells well.
Okay, good. And then one question, just the funds, these funds are capital budget, but it's enterprise funds, really, it's water funds, that's all we can use it for.
It's all water, and so in the agenda, the 5080-52001 is a spendable line, okay, but we needed to move from 5080-53002 100,000 into that spendable line, and so that leaves us a balance of the 267,710. But that is not just, and Tina wanted to make sure that we know that this is capital project reserve, which is designed for these types of things. We knew we had capital projects, we didn't itemize it, but it's to be spent. It is not the contingency undesignated reserve. That remains at the 435. But it will pull down 100,000 out of the capital projects reserve, and that's the way it's designed to work. But we had to, we can't spend from the reserve, so we had to move it in product, and so that's why you get the heavy language in there.
And lots of numbers.
So, approved as is with waive the rule, that would be great, as read.
So moved.
Second.
Is that a motion?
That's
Did
a
we get a
motion.
motion?
Yes.
And that was to
Snuck
waive the
that in
rule?
there.
Yeah, okay.
So we got a motion for approval of item 5B as explained and waive the rules. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Vince. So we go to action items. Item A is consideration to approve contract number PS 20250162 with GH2 Architects for $113,500 plus 18% contingency for a total amount not to exceed $133,930 for the Michelson Building renovation project designed to be funded through City of Globe General Fund, account 10665220, capital outlay, construction, economic, and community development contingency on final approved by city attorney. Paul.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, as you recall, the, Michelson Building, owned by the county, it's a incubator, business incubator project, that we're partnering with the county. We received the federal money, for the majority of the construction, but the county owns it. If you remember, I think October, we signed an IGA to share in that process. Because of the primarily gonna be funded from federal money, we are point on hiring the architect. But the City of Globe has worked with the county and specifically with Joseph Dickinson, who's here, and Amber Martinez, his executive, and Joseph is the Director of Infrastructure for the county. And so we together have selected an architect that we would want to hire to do the design and set the plans to go to bid for the construction. So this is design, bid, build. And, but this is the first piece, which is this professional services contract to do that. And Joseph, I'd like to invite you up to just share a little bit about the partnership and our selection of GH2. And then you got some news for council also.
Oh, good news? Bad news?
I told him 30 seconds.
That's okay.
All the time you want.
We'll give you more than 30
We're
seconds.
already here.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. This project reflects the deepening partnership between Gila County and the City of Globe, creating a business incubator. Just like mentioned, we're proud to provide the full service project management, including the architectural engineering, coordination, while acting as a direct link between city leadership and county stakeholders. The GH2 was selected for their proven track record over on our side, from the Hill County side, and their expertise in historic revitalization, an ideal fit for transformation of the Michelson Building while preserving its historic legacy. Gila County Board of Supervisors has approved a contract for interior demolition and environmental abatement. Previously, we had a little bit of an update with you. We were just getting ready to present it to the board, and that is approved. With that being said, Southwest Hazard Control is mobilized with all permits secured from the city, and work begins early morning, May 5th, and we anticipate about a 5-week timeline for that project. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
That's good. Man.
No, so that'll gut the whole interior of it? Is that what it's after?
Yes, sir. Of course, we're going to leave all critical infrastructure tied to it, to include any load-bearing walls or anything else that we deemed as a necessity for the future build-out. And then again, though, the primary focus is going to be the asbestos and lead abatement.
So the procurement, the city did the procurement on this because it's professional services construction. We're underneath the requirement to go to any we can select the architect of our choice, which we have together, and then we've gotten comparable prices to establish the pricing is fair and equitable and consistent with what GH2 has done with others. The funding, the 113.5 is coming out of city funds. This starts us off with some money that we had budgeted. It is general funds, it is not federal funds, which help us get this project moving. Eventually it will be a federal project, but we can start this with the non-federal funds. We have asked for 18% contingency, which is roughly $20,000, because anytime you're working on a existing building, a historic building, you find things that you may need to do or have done. This is also a unique project because the architects will be working with both entities and presenting to both boards until we come to, so there's a little bit more communication requirements on there. It's built into the scope, but we just want to make sure that we didn't have to come back here and ask for anything more on that. In this partnership, while we are point in doing the paperwork, we have in the agreement, we both need to agree if there's a change order, both the county and the city need to come to agreement that that change order is worthy and worth doing. So
this is for design.
this is for design, the architect to set out the rooms. There's also subcontractors for the HVAC because needs air conditioning. And what's the other subcontractor is?
Essentially all the MEP programs, so the mechanical, electrical,
Structural,
plumbing,
yes.
and
Yeah.
of course the structural to tie everything together from an engineering standpoint. And of course, the architectural, like mentioned, that brings the aesthetics and ties everything together.
So then we will start meeting, getting some concepts, and then we'll start rolling them out as we get closer to that. I think and then there's a little bit of construction management in there. But the end result from this contract is to get a design that everybody's happy with, and then have a set of biddable plans that we can go forward and have a construction company bid on.
And this is the entire building, two-story, and with the basement also, because I think it has a basement too, right?
It's got a couple offices.
No, sir, I don't think it has a full basement or anything
Not a
that we
full,
can utilize.
just an
But to your point, yes, sir, we intend to look at designing for the first and the second floor.
The back end kind of becomes a basement as you go up as you go up the hill.
Mr. Mayor, no other questions?
Go ahead, Jesse.
I make a motion to approve it as read and waive the rules.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of item 5B, 5A.
6A.
I'm sorry, 6A.
And I waive the rules.
And waive, it's an action item. Do we have to waive the rules on it?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, we don't.
We don't have to, but I want to.
Okay.
Wow. It doesn't need to come back, they just need to.
Well, it's already been here before, so
Move it
this
and
is,
go, yeah.
yeah. So, but I agree with the council member.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
So we got to approve of item 6A and waiving the rules. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstain? Motion passed.
And thank you for sticking it out with us, thank you.
Yeah, wasn't too bad.
Yep, we're to the high-speed portion of the meeting.
Yes, high speed.
Action item B is discussion review recommendations by the council bed tax work group on proposed modifications of the City of Globe bed tax agreement for the distribution of the additional collected transient lodging dollars to the 5 bed tax organizations and direction to move the bed tax agreement forward for final approval to the next available meeting. Paul.
All right, and so I'm gonna lightning through the presentation here. So this
30 seconds.
this is gonna be a hard one, but now 2 of you have been in the bed tax work group. The rest, this is new. So we're focusing on updated agreement. We work on fiscal accountability and responsibility, but we want to bolster there's financial sustainability, organizational structures, and succession planning in the future. We had multiple meetings, and pretty much everything in here has been seen by the members of the bed tax groups that have come here. Next. So this is, I'm going to lightning through their 3-year term. They got to stay right with IRS, ACC. Communication, we are going to focus more on the communication using the liaisons, the council liaisons, because they seem to be more responsive to you guys than to us. We notify, and they're going to have quarterly meetings, and they've agreed to this. There is a agreed to, and actually their suggestion that we cap this at $250,000 per year. Right now, we don't expect to hit that, but that makes everything simple. And confirm the 20% across the board. All 5 historic organizations get 20%. Next slide. We have reduced this, and this is actually taking place now. We have a fall distribution and a spring distribution. So July to December is fall, spring is January to June. The reporting is pretty much the same, but we got to get current updates. Like I say, the fall distribution needs to be approved by council by the 31st. And the spring distribution needs to be approved by council by June 30th. This is because of the auditor requirements. And the bed tax organizations need to stay in good standing with this agreement. Next slide. All right, submission of annual budgets. These are other reporting requirements. Annual budget to the clerk. Keep us updated on changes in members and director. They can, we or they can ask for activity reports, and they can ask to come to council for presentations. The city promises, commits to notify both the members of the bed tax and the liaison if something's coming on the agenda that may impact them. This is something that we promise, easy lift. It's like, hey, we will, and Shelley's already been doing that. She told everybody that, you know, if you want to see what's going on, we're here tonight. You know, anyway, next slide.
So they're here.
No.
They're here. Here we
Oh,
are. They're here.
Okay, so this is, I'm going to go slower with this. This is kind of the new thing that we came up with, and this came up with just for the record, Shelley and I pretty much sat in the corner and took notes. This was the 3 members of the bed tax organization of the bed tax work group that worked with the key people from the bed tax organizations that came here, and in order to help them meet those goals of sustainability and fiscal and future sustainability, we've all decided that the bed tax organizations would develop a 3-year capacity plan detailing what they can do to diversify their revenue and advance their organization. We had put a little bit more detail in it, but then we decided, no, let's wait and let them do that as we go through this process. The City Globe staff will provide 3 planning meetings to facilitate this capacity building plan. Think of it as a strategic action plan. 6.3, we will also do annual third-party training sessions. I won't go into the different groups, but you know the types of groups that help economic development with us and help with them. We will help get those coordinated and set those up. Also, we're offering to do one-on-one planning sessions for individual bed tax organizations that may ask for that. If they're having a special problem or something we can do to help. We don't know that all of them will. They all are being asked to do a strategic action plan and a 3-year strategic action plan, but some may want some additional assistance. And then 6.5, bed tax organization will maintain good standing by participating in the agreed upon processes and making a good faith effort to successfully implement the facets of the adopted 3-year plan. So they need to go through, we're asking they go through this process and they in good faith implement this process. Next slide. So additional terms, we can modify this by mutual agreement. We both agree that we want to change something. If everybody's on board, we can do that. Any individual bed tax organization may withdraw from the agreement upon written notification, and then be terminated by us or by any one member can bow out. My only request is there is some clunky language that we had gone through and put in the agenda. And so in here is a stipulation I would like to ask that we adopt, and the changes are in red. I think this is just clear, and if you can take one and pass it down, that would be great. So, the first one is just...
when you say both parties, is it individually, or are you claiming that that the bed tax organization that we established will be one party and then the council would be one party?
Okay, so individuals may withdraw.
But no, this agreement may be modified by mutual agreement of both parties.
Yeah, and that would,
It would take the group consensus.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the group's consensus, because I think they wanna, they talk about the individual, but they work really good as a group, so I think it's gonna stay well with that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to add in that the audit requirement in 4.2, that we literally cannot distribute that. And then 4.4 better describes the 3 requirements to receive the money. To qualify, I'll read it in total. To qualify for distribution of funds, a bed tax organization have their fall distribution request approved by council no later than March 31st. First, have their spring distribution request approved by council by June 30th, and the requesting bed tax organizations must be in good standing as required by section 6.5 of this agreement at the time of the request. That is the only change. We have that in there, but it was clunky, and so I just figured this laid it out and was more clear.
Mayor, good.
Go ahead, Jess.
Due to audit requirements, funds may not be distributed at the end of fiscal year. Where do the funds then sit?
They will remain with the city.
They'll go into the general.
They'll go into the fund balance.
Yeah,
They become one-time money.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm requesting approval of this with the stipulation that you add the stipulation provided by the city manager to section 4.2 and 4.4.
Before we move forward, Mike, I know we are part of the work group. Freddie's not here. Mike, do you have any comments on it, or do you have any questions for us too that we might answer?
I just want to thank staff for putting this together. I was talking to Paul earlier about this. We met for months with bed tax organizations, and it did start off a little hairy there first, to say the least. But then at the end, or actually before the end, we all worked together as one large team, and we came up with all these plans that Paul just went over, and everybody's happy with it, so.
Like I said, I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank staff. I think it really, those silos that we were trying to break down as council when we first put liaisons on, I think this really showed good faith on both sides, and it came to a great agreement that here we can show. And I think it took that time for us to figure out what would work and what wouldn't work, and so I appreciate the time.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, to everyone's point, we are dedicating, the city council, the city is dedicating staff time to set up these meetings, and there's investment by city staff. But if we can get the bed tax organizations functioning, stable, and just increasing their capacity, it's good for everybody. So it's worth the investment by staff and the commitment by staff.
But it did turn out, it was
great.
really,
I've
came
heard
up to the conclusion.
Nothing but great things on the organization I'm on, so.
Good.
Yeah,
You
Mr.
have
Mayor,
anything to add, Mayor?
We didn't have this 4 years ago. And in my mind, I didn't see succession planning, I didn't see third-party advice and counsel. I didn't see any structure to help these organizations into the future. So I think that's been accomplished with this round of negotiation and meetings. And I do agree, I think they feel better about it. I do agree that there should always be a council member in these organizations. That seems to be one thing that we have to do, is act as a tail twister. And because of that, things are moving along. And I agree that there's progress here. I like seeing this. Thank you.
I'd just like to comment, I'd like to emphasize what Mike said. I think the first meeting was kind of a listening session for us, and we really took a hit on it. I mean, of what the organizations really disliked about the city and the staff and everything. We did, but we absorbed that, and we came back and gave our opinions in the next ones, and then from there we worked to really a plan that everybody was agreeable on. The 50,000, I just want to emphasize that it's 250,000. They get 50,000 capped every year. Anything above the 250,000, the city, it goes to the city of Globe. So that's a cap in this agreement, and this agreement will be 3 years, right?
Yes.
3 years agreement. So I think we all have a responsibility, and it makes it tough. That's why I think it's important that we continue, or we really put in the responsibility of liaisons, council liaisons, to maintain that communication to the groups. That's vital. Our staff, I think, has tried in the past, and it's been kind of, everything comes to a deadline, and we don't get the information. So I think the liaisons, and I think to get the responsibility, especially to us, Shally, it should be our responsibility. If we're the liaisons of that group, then we should be pushing to get those quarterly reports in, make sure that the communication continues to move smoothly. The capacity building was something, I think that's a great idea. The city is willing to put the time and effort, provide staff for this training, to get succession planning, to get some kind of a strategic action plan, to try and build their capacity, you know, instead of just staying stagnant, that we can, are there other ways to increase their revenue as a nonprofit or as an organization? So I think overall it went well. I know it's been a long time to get here, but we had some good conversations, and I hope that this continues to build that relationship with them in the future.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I just wanted to, Councilman Rios was there at every meeting, and he had a lot of input, a lot of insights, a different perspective, and I know he couldn't be here tonight, but I congratulate him for his commitment, because he put some hours in there, too, with that. Also, Mr. Mayor, did you want to talk about that we may in the future, the liaison assignments?
Yeah, I just want to confirm that, you know, as we move forward with this contract, that whoever's serving as liaison is committed to that group. Obviously, we want to make sure that communication responsibility is going to be really a little more impacted. We're going to have to make sure that information is passed to them. And I just want those liaisons to be comfortable, because it does take time for you to go to meetings and make sure you're there with them. So we'll probably address that.
Yeah, and we'll agendize. It'll be a short item, but we didn't agendize this to have the liaison assignments, and I don't want to do that without notifying the bed tax organizations that we're going to have a formal discussion on that. So I'd like to not finalize that here, but move that to a meeting in the future. Not get in trouble with our agreement before we even sign it.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I think with you guys sitting down and laying this all out and everybody understanding what their responsibilities are prior to this being developed, they used to just sit out there and expect us to send them the money, and there was no requirement on their sides, and this is putting it in their hands and saying, okay, if you want, this is what you've got to do.
Yep. Because
we're the one that generates the revenue that supports them.
Yep.
So.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I also wanted to acknowledge Linda Neto. This is going to be on her platter to facilitate. This will be her economic development, and to do all this. She will be helping she has those connections, and she kind of has that eye to help diagnose some of these problems. And so she will, her and her staff will be working with the bed tax organizations as we go forward. I think that's a good match. I think she can.
You bet, and there's a commitment, there's an accountability from both sides, the city, and again, I want to commend our staff, because again, we've committed to providing that time and that staff time to provide this training. But at the same time, I just want to emphasize with these bed tax organizations, they have to commit, they are accountable also.
No.
It's not just, you know, if you want your money, this is what you're going to have to do.
No, this contract covers that, and they are aware of that. So.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion with the requested stipulations as the city manager laid out.
Second.
Motion and a second for approval of item 6B. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstained? Motion passed. Item C is public hearing and consideration to approve resolution number 1904 adopting 2025 fee schedule update and sanitation collection rates. So at this time, I will open the public hearing, and it is open for any public comment. So if we have anything online, for any comment.
Take a look real quick here.
Who turned the heater on?
See?
Mr.
Oh,
Mayor,
I'm sorry, you don't know, you know.
there is a public hearing sign-in sheet. I'll put it at the back of the.
Okay.
It's a little late, but.
Yeah.
There's
So,
nobody here.
and Mr. Mayor, we have no one online that has emailed.
Okay.
Let me check Shelley's phone, and I don't see anything that looks like anything but.
Okay. Daniel, how many online viewers do we have? Okay, thank you.
About average.
And Mr. Mayor, this is the 27 to 28 page fee in 2025 fee improvement. Again, these are fees that are put in place for cost recovery. We're trying to make sure we never will be able to recover 100% of the cost, but we're trying to move from what we predict is our 30% cost to our 70% cost, or 70% recovery. They've been posted on the web for the designated times and advertised formally. So.
Okay.
And so if
No comments, and I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. And, Shelley, can you read, resolution number 1904 for approval?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1904, a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Globe, Arizona, adopting the 2025 fee schedule update for the City of Globe. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Mayor, if there are no other questions or comments, I'd make a motion to adopt resolution number 1904 as stated.
Second?
Motion second for approval of resolution number 1904. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I just want to comment, want to thank the subcommittees for their work, working with staff to come up with a schedule, something that addresses our future. We have been, and we can all say this, I do believe that don't raise our property taxes. It's been a mandate basically across the board over the last 4 years that I'm familiar with. Nevertheless, we have staff that is doing the work of the development of the city, and that costs money. Thank God that we do have a revenue stream that is continuing to grow with our efforts. So the cost is there. We must recognize that cost without raising other mechanisms. This is one way that we can do this. And I expect in the future that I will be called to task on this. And I will tell them, where were you tonight? I will tell them it's been published, it's been out there. And I will tell them, give us another mechanism that will fund the recovery of our costs. Go right ahead and give me a suggestion. I sound a little defensive, but we've worked very hard to raise our revenues without touching or increasing a property tax. But we still have to survive. We are addressing our future. We have the possibility of mechanisms coming online to help us fund our future. But it costs money to maintain, or rather to direct what we're doing here. And we have lost money on the table, and that's been mentioned in these discussions. I will point those out, and I will not forget that. We've lost money for I don't know how many years, and now we're addressing that without raising a property tax rate. And so I just wanted to point that out before we vote on this. I'm sure we'll be called to task when outside entities come to the table, but that has also been discussed. They've come to the table expecting to pay the fees because that's how it's done in the rest of Arizona. So in a developing community in Arizona, we had to adjust these things to account for that. So I just want that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, the majority's fees are going to save the taxpayer money, because if we can't charge the person utilizing the service, then the taxpayer supports it through the whole. The other thing is this council is not rubber stamping this. It seems pretty simple tonight, but I remember coming up here asking you sent me packing. Okay, and so then I returned the favor by having 5 council meetings in 1 week in February, and you all sat down 27 pages of going through these line by line, talking about it. Staff got it, we all went together and did that, and we showed you the numbers and showed you how we came to these, and thank you for that, for listening to us and saying, okay, these are correct. We made some changes, we added some, we subtracted one, but that's how the process is supposed to work. You don't see that here, but all those memories of that week burned in our brain. So it was, I thank council for taking the time to do the oversight that your voters, requested you. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item D is consideration to approve contract PS 20250159 with Living Street Alliance for the amount of $55,929.79 which will be funded from the Safe Streets Department of Transportation Grant 236149854 and through account number 128052200, capital outlay construction and authority to exceed the threshold of requiring competitive solicitation of $50,000. Connie.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's really great to come before you and move along this grant, better known as Safe Streets and Roads for All, the SS4A grant that we were awarded a year ago. And we have a solid contract with the federal government. Our money's in place, and we're moving forward with hiring a contractor for the huge community engagement component to this grant. I'm pretty excited about it because we did have 4 contractors, and the way that Travis was able to work the bid, and he actually worked with me on it, and we kind of set it up so that they did a mock, they did what they do best, but they mocked it with us. And we were able to select the best contractor for our rural area, for our type of city. And these are contractors from Arizona. They are from out of town because, as you know, there just wouldn't be one here. And so I ask you to go to approve past the threshold, and it was a competitive bid, but it is $55,929.79, so it's over the threshold of 50,000. So I would ask you to go ahead and approve this contract.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, just so you know, the next item will be to increase the threshold.
Yep.
So from the 50,000 to the 125. So.
And the other component to that is that, you know, you would still have 30 days before that goes into effect. So that's why I'm before the raise in the threshold.
This has been, Mr. Mayor, members of council, has been, we've vetted this through Bill Sims on our ability to do this.
Mayor, I would move to approve contract PS 2025015 with Living Street Alliance for the amount of $55,929.79.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of item 6D. Is there any further discussion? And just real quick, Connie, this group will follow this whole grant all the way through the 2-year demonstration
Exactly.
period.
And you know, just to dovetail off of that, we do have an 18-month demonstration period in the downtown corridor. So I can take you back to that. So this public engagement group will open it with our public. They will help the public choose the items that are going to be demonstrated in the corridor. They will collect the data. They will follow it all the way through. They'll report back to the public after the demonstration period. And for us, the city, they'll gather that data for us and help us build the implementation portion of the next grant so that we can go in for another grant with millions of dollars for all of the streets of within the 18.2 square miles of Globe.
Great. Thank you, Connie.
You're welcome.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you, Connie.
Item D is consideration to approve ordinance number 890, amending Article 3 of the City of Globe Purchasing Code for Goods and Services to increase the threshold requiring the use of competitive solicitation from 50,000 to 125,000, Section 3-5-15D and Section 3-5-16, and increase the threshold requiring statement qualification solicitation from 50,000 to 125,000 for professional services contracts, Section 3-5-23D.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we are asking to up the threshold for goods and services only. This is our procurement code. This is for when we go to competitive solicitation or professional services. We have found after the pandemic that that time and money are costing the taxpayers more. So in those middle range projects between 50 and 125, the time it takes to do the professional solicitation usually doesn't get us that much savings, if any, but it does put projects back, and we've gotten very good at rounding up people who can do this level of project in that sub 125, and so we think that the cost benefit is better for the taxpayers for these small projects that are usually 1 to 3 months. It's kind of silly. Well, I don't want to sound like. So it's if you have a project to spend 3 months to procure a project that takes 1 month to complete, it's better if we can do it and just do a quicker method procurement, and we can do that by upping our threshold to 125 for both professional services and goods and service, professional services, goods and competitive solicitation, goods and services, not to be confused with construction, where they're much higher by the state.
And I apologize, can you read ordinance 890?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 890, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Globe, Arizona, amending the Globe, Arizona Municipal Code, Article 3-5, purchasing to increase threshold requiring the use of competitive solicitation, Section 3-5-15D for goods and services from $50,000 to $125,000. Section 3-5-16, Statement of Qualifications, solicitation from $50,000 to $125,000, and Section 3-5-23D, Professional Services from $50,000 to $125,000. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 890, amending Article 3, Section 3-5-15D, Section 3-5-16, and Section 5323D, increasing the threshold from $50,000 to $125,000 for competitive solicitation for goods and services contracts, and for statement of qualifications for professional services contracts.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item 6E. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining. Motion passed. Item F is discussion and discussion and.
Last PowerPoint?
What's that?
Oh, it's asking Danny for the PowerPoint.
Oh. Discussion and consideration of giving additional direction to staff on the interview selection process for the Historical Preservation Advisory Commission. Paul.
Yeah, I don't think you did. I have
Okay,
it.
there it is. Okay, so lightning round here, go to the first slide. So Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're talking about advancing our process and how we make selections for committees. We're starting with HPAC. What we do here will probably be mimicked with the other appointment process. Just a little background on historical preservation. They are an advisory commission to council. A minimum 5 members hold 3-year terms. They have the legislative authority is limited to making recommendations to council. Council does final approval. HVAC members serve the council. They receive support from staff but do not give direction to staff. Staff works alongside of these boards and committees, commissions to give council advisory functions. But council must select applicants who hold the views that are in alignment rather than in conflict with the council's vision. Next slide. So we've gone through a couple methods of doing this, but I think in talking to a lot of council, I think this is what I'd like to propose. And if you are okay with that, then we can go forward. If there's changes, let me know now. Initial council meeting, what we will do, we have, right now, I think we have a number of applicants for HPAC. Okay, we need to do some, when you get you put an application, you put a posting out, you get applications, you review those to see who meets the threshold, and then you interview those and then make your final selections. So we're breaking this into a 2-part process. The applications will be reviewed in e-session. We can legally do that. And you can also develop interview questions. And so we'll take everybody that has applied, we'll look at them in e-session and discuss the pros and cons, but we cannot rank them. We cannot make any decisions about them. We just kind of talk about, what are we looking in that? What are the goals? What are the questions we want to ask these people? And this is allowable. Council will meet and return in open session, and then council will ask for a motion and a second to invite an applicant to participate in a live interview. What this does is it means that when you invite people for the interview, you've already determined who you want to interview. You've done the pre-screening process. And so then you have that ready to go. And then council will then vote to invite that applicant to return in 2 weeks to participate in that interview. Okay. There's a spelling error. I don't want.
It's not a spelling error. I just think this is a lot. It's very convoluted.
Okay.
It's just a lot. You're asking us to go into e-session, look at applications, come back out, return to open session, talk about it, figure out a motion.
Yeah.
Figure out a motion, call the person, see if they want to be interviewed publicly, interview the person publicly, then come back, and then that's a lot. I don't see people bombarding our doors to join our commissions, and I just think that it's a lot. I think that I understand the need and want to have a formal process to put somebody that is aligned within what we have, but I thought that we did that previously. I thought we said we were going to talk about maybe all of us putting somebody that's within our district, and then making sure they went through Citizens Academy, that they understand what this means before that they get onto a commission. Now we're getting really in the weeds and making it even more convoluted, as if they're getting a job.
So let me finish the presentation and come back and address. Okay. So then with the applicants to be invited, then you hold the mayor asks, and I think it's a good idea, we hold a special meeting before the regular council meeting, hold the interviews, and then you can ask the questions. We don't have to do anything complicated, pass out the questions, have those interviews, and then they can, at the 6 o'clock meeting, have an agenda item where council the mayor would appoint the members and council needs to bless that. But what we would do is we would have, mayor wants to ask for appointments or suggestions from the rest of the council. And so then the council will make suggestions, mayor will make appointments, and then council blesses the whole thing. So the bulk of the work is on the initial screening process. But I would, and so Councilman Leatham, to your question, I do believe that the energy you put in the front end of this to get people in the right spot without putting everybody through the public process, without a one big group, there's a lot of pressure on council when you just have an open application. People are sitting in the audience, and you're being asked to choose based on a criteria that hasn't really been developed. I think we paid a penalty for that. I think we paid a price for that in moving the city forward, in efficiency on our boards. And I think the energy that council takes up front to get the right people on these boards and be selected for people who support the goals of the city, support what council's trying to do, that are in tune with where you want to go. Because all it takes is if you put somebody on there that is either not up to the challenge or counter to the goals of council, and then you lose the efficiency of this whole process. So the work you put up front is going to benefit in the end. And so I would encourage council to.
At what point can council ask a member of one of these subcommittees to be relinquished from their duties? At what point can we say you are no longer
You would have to go to
following
public
in the best
vote
interest of what we are doing?
Yeah.
So at that point,
Yeah, you'd have to publicly vote to remove them.
yeah, just like we're publicly
But
voting
why,
to put them on.
why put them on in the first place?
I just don't see a line of people begging to be on our boards and commissions.
We don't need to be
And
desperate.
We do, because otherwise then it falls on this council to sit in these subcommittees and be that subcommittee. When we've asked for advisory boards from our citizens to come in and advise us as to what they want. Then it falls back on this council again to do it. I'm okay with difference of opinions because they are advising us as to what they feel is in their best opinion. And at the end, it's up to us what we decide. If we don't have to take their advisement. We can understand it. They advised us. We don't agree with it. We can move forward in a different direction.
It's more than a difference of opinion, but let me let the rest of the council speak.
Do you have any comments on that?
The one thing I noticed is we were given the applications and then we're asked to kind of rank them based on something they weren't asked to provide answers to. So like a couple of them had written pretty like, oh, they elaborated as to why they thought they should be on it and they elaborated on why they thought they would be good. But a couple just answered the question like yes, no, and I'm like, that is not helpful at all, and you're asking me to see how well they fit. I'm like, so if we're gonna judge them on the criteria, then the questions should be such that it gets that out of them. So when I review it, I can say, oh, okay. Because sometimes maybe I do know someone, but I don't know everybody.
I don't either.
Well,
in the applications, some were, they were vague to a point where, you're right, I mean, how do you grade them? They're just checking a yes or no box.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, that is the purpose of going into e-session, so you can have frank conversations about what each of you know about the person based on their application and what you've seen in the community and their reputations and the good things they've done and what the sum total is out there. I think that, just as any interview, you look for the technical qualifications, but you also look for the fit and you look for the alignment with what you're trying to do for the city. And there's more to just a recommendation. Staff needs to be able to work with these people. Staff needs to support them and make sure that we team up and we're going in the same direction. And it's been frustrating to staff when if staff is asking that if you can take a little bit of additional time to try this process. And I think you'll find people who are more compatible and the end result will be a smoother process and advancing council's agenda with more smoothly. So,
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that too. I've seen both sides and I think for the most part, we have the Board of Adjustments, we have planning and zoning, we have we have a good group in there. We haven't been part of that, but I've also been part of some of the groups that we have had some people that have caused some issues. I think it's just, it is, and I have to support staff on this because they're the ones that get everything ready. I mean, especially HPAC. There's a lot of staff involvement. There's Dana's involved with all this stuff. So we need to have compatibility. I mean, if we're gonna put somebody in there that's anti-city and is not gonna, be a good fit, what kind of, what is that gonna do in accordance to our staff and for us? I think if we do the work up front, make sure we get the right fit in these organizations, I think it's worth the time.
So if I could, Mayor, why don't we make a subcommittee, a council subcommittee, like we have all the different council work groups that could meet annually, twice annually, that discusses these. They get the applications, they discuss them, then they bring them back to council as to, this is who we feel would be the best fit. This is why we feel this would be the best fit. And then from there, twice annually, we then put them on the boards.
So you're saying if we get an application, it'd go to a work group that would discuss and review them and do the interview and then bring the recommendation?
Correct. Instead of going to e-session, coming back out, doing a public interview, doing this, if council then wanted to do a public interview, then the council would have the opportunity. But it would alleviate the going in here, coming back out, going back out.
And there wouldn't be any going, everybody would say.
It would alleviate all of that. It would go to a council subcommittee that twice annually that would then fill these boards and it'd come to a council meeting to fill the boards.
Well, I don't think you couldn't say it'd be twice annually, it'd have to be when we get an application in, that work group would have to get together to interview this. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4 times a year.
Sure.
And I'm okay with that if we have the commitment of 3 council members that wanted to
Mr. Mayor,
want to do a work group.
I don't want to interrupt. I want to double check that we can use the subcommittee for that. We had a conversation with Bill Sims and Shelley. It seems to me that he said.
Well, right now you're just getting direction as to what we want. So you can, either way, you're going to go back and do directions.
Yeah, and we can go back and double check with Bill Sims. So just so you know.
Okay, well, the problem for me when we were handed those interview slips or what we thought, three of the people I didn't even know.
Yeah, we don't know them, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, so how do you
That's
explain
why the
that?
answer was,
Yeah.
you know, just that over on the end, not sure, not sure.
Kinda what Fernando
Because,
just said.
you know, if we're going to appoint people to committees, I think we need to know more about it.
Yep.
Okay? And I'm not saying we know more about it because they're on Facebook all the time or because this or that, okay? A person may be completely different than what they show on that, on their phones,
Application.
okay? You know what I mean? So,
Mr. Mayor, members of council, doesn't it matter what someone puts on Facebook?
No.
Doesn't? Really?
well, I don't know, I think it does to a degree, it gives you an idea of where where some people may be at, okay? But if you go into an interview with that person, you can delve into whatever that issue is. Okay?
Just the elephant in the room. Are we not gonna ask the committee what they think about these people?
Yes, that's what we would do. That's what we end up
'cause-
doing.
No, not our committee.
No,
The
the
HPAC
actual HPAC
or
committee.
whatever group that we're trying
So
to
should
fill.
should
It
they
seems to
review
me
it?
like if I'm on the HPAC committee, I would at least like some input as to
Who's my
which
colleague?
one I'd rather.
But
work
we only
with.
have one person on HVAC right now.
That's the trouble, we only
We only have one person on
Right, I
HVAC.
get you, but what I'm saying is this
we're
process
rebuilding
doesn't
it.
take that into consideration at all.
Oh, okay.
So if we're only filling one position,
Then
then I would feel like it really should, they should be
Get them
involved.
Part
in
of
that.
the,
Yeah, they
yeah.
should be part of
That's the
that
trouble, we
because.
don't have an HPAC committee.
do we only have one person on there?
One
right now?
person right now, yes,
But
is all we have.
But let's be honest here. HPAC committee isn't there to please us. They're supposed to be there to follow some guidelines. And we get people on there that are trying to follow the guidelines and then we just decide, yeah, we'll let them paint that purple because we just want the business to be happy. Okay, but if we keep doing that, well, why should they serve on the HPAC
Right.
committee?
Yeah.
I mean,
Why does
it's-
it exist?
yeah, because we just want your opinion, but we don't care what your opinion really
Right.
is. I'm like, come on, you guys. We really, if we're going to have an HPAC committee that's going to be historic preservation, we really should try to listen to them and try to get people to comply with that.
Mhm.
But if we don't and we overturn them every time, it's just convenient for us to overturn them.
I don't think
We
we've
get to be the
overturned
good
them.
guys.
I can only remember one time we've overturned it.
I can remember like
A
three.
couple of times we have.
Mhm.
As a council?
Yeah, as a council, a couple of times
So-
we have. We allowed them to paint certain colors that they didn't want, so.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, that proves the point that you need to take more time to get people that are more like you, that carry your vision. These are representatives. You're selecting these. You're putting your stamp of approval on these people that they're good for the city, and they may not be. And you have no obligation to anyone to just put whoever, the first one to come up and volunteer or anything like that. We don't just hire the first person that walks to the door, the first person to put the application. We look for the best fit for the job that needs to be done to move the city forward. And I implore council to take the same approach to HPAC.
Well, I think we need to somehow get the right people in there. That's my opinion. I mean, I sat in council meetings for 18 years and I saw council members, I saw individuals run from our community that really weren't there for the good of the community. They ran because they had a vendetta against the city. They ran because they wanted to get rid of a certain staff member, and they did. That's why they ran. So, you know, I've been fortunate, I can say that working with a council that we're unified, we have the same vision, but you put a disruption in there and somebody doesn't have the same vision, it'll disrupt the whole thing, I guarantee you. And I think you've seen it, people run, that ran for a certain, to get rid of somebody, or they had their own vendetta. This is more complex than just worrying about one subject. Running a city is very complex. We have to make decisions that affect the whole city, not certain individuals or certain businesses in this
If you
community.
remember correctly, a few years back, we had to make a change on the council simply because we had the issue.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
No,
I just don't want, I don't want it to
Nothing
be,
was getting,
I don't want it to be so convoluted that nobody wants to apply. that it bogs us down so much when we're trying to progress the city. So if we can kick it to a subcommittee, and the subcommittee can then vet these people, bring up from 7 applications, they can come and bring to the council, this is who we've decided would fit best here, here, and here. And then we can then, if we want to then bog down and interview the person, we have the option.
So I would find out from Bill if we can do that with a work group. And I'd like to incorporate a staff member also to, I think we need input with staff because they're the ones that work more closely than we do with them.
I think it's the staff, and like Fernando said, it's a member of that board, it's a member of council, and it's, there we are. Then everybody's heads are together, and this is who we want, this is what we feel, and they are better here, they applied at HVAC, but maybe they're better in planning and zoning. And let's see if they can go there.
So, and Mr. Mayor, as I'm listening, I'm rewinding the conversation with what Bill told us. Bill told us that staff could not cut down, could not, filter it down. And I think if you take a subcommittee of not the full council, Bill was very clear that the full council needs to look at all applications before anything happens. Now, I think maybe a subcommittee could
look at all the applications,
could look at all, but they're all going to end up in this, and at that point. So, but I do appreciate taking staff's opinion into. I think that goes a long way too. So let us regroup, and we got direction to go back and try to fine tune this, as you say, deconvolute it.
Yeah. Okay. Take it off your napkins, Paul.
Because this isn't just gonna affect HPAC, this will affect all our subcommittees.
Yeah, every
So it'll affect all the applications and I'm okay with, having that work group. If it's legal to do, that group will spend the time reviewing those applications.
But, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Yeah, but do they actually fill out an application, or do they just submit their name to be on the committee?
No, they fill out an application, but the application is.
But we have to redo the application and make it a little bit more involved.
I will tell you that one of the things that we're trying to avoid is the optics of having people in the audience who are not selected, sitting there going,
But I think if we do this, then the subcommittee can then reach out to the people that are.
But, and I just gotta figure out at what, okay, well, it's late.
Yeah.
So that's
I'm here for
coming
the
back.
duration.
That'll come back.
That'll come
That'll come
back.
back.
Oh, yeah, man.
We'll come back.
No, like the boomerang from,
So we're not making a motion.
that movie.
No, it was just discussion.
Yeah, it was discussion.
Okay, so item 7 is late agenda items, any?
Can I talk about the people that came up and commented on the traffic and everybody getting used to the two-way stop?
Oh, yeah.
The answer to that is the fact that if you do a four-way stop, then people stopping on an active railroad tracks.
Oh.
Okay, so that's not good. We did have an engineer, we looked at a three-way stop, we had a traffic engineer look at this, and we did this based on the direction of a traffic engineer. I don't know if there's anything else, we just now, we painted the things.
I saw that today, you guys are painting out there.
And Globe people, once they get trained,
I did almost get hit today.
What's that?
I almost got hit today. The lady blew through the stop sign while I was going.
Yeah, so I think everybody is, but I don't know, John.
Maybe a parked police car there.
Well,
they see this.
So they can just take an accident report.
Yeah.
What I've noticed is the traffic on Hill Street is a lot quicker now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they come around that corner and they're gonna shoot because there's no stop signs, which is fine.
Yeah.
If you know about it.
Yeah.
And with the stops on the road today, that made a difference, because I've seen people stop in the 2 stop lanes and one go right through the middle because they don't realize that stop sign means all the way across.
This may be fixed by the time we get this. There's actually 3 weeks between this meeting and the next meeting, I think. Yeah. So with the new painted stop right in front of you and everything like that, I think it's going to get better. But we can bring this back if council would like to just have a conversation with John and with Dale about this.
Is there a stop sign coming downhill
No.
getting ready to cross the bridge?
No.
No.
Okay, so there's not, so I
This is
saw.
open and this
See,
is.
that's a
closed.
straight shot now, and they,
Well, I
they
saw that, cause I was coming the other way, turning left onto Broad, and somebody's coming downhill. Who has the right of way?
The guy going straight.
These two.
Well, you always, okay, the person that's making a turn always needs to yield to the person going straight. Okay.
I know that, but does everybody?
But I think
Because
people-
I almost saw the same thing head on.
Yeah, I think people have gotten used, are like coming around on Hill Street because it is a straight shot, man. I mean, I'm to the point now, I mean, I've driven enough now where I know where I gotta stop,
Right.
okay?
So-
So I stop, and I've even started to go because I thought I had enough room. Before I know it, there's a car coming around the
coming
corner.
down, yeah.
And the other thing is, you can't see the cars coming out of the canyon that way because that handrail blocks them. You don't see them until they're all the way in the middle of the bridge almost.
So, John, did you want to talk about why this might make a good future agenda item or why it might not?
Well, I actually think, you know, to mayor and council, we've actually discussed this when we do the traffic study, when the architect, the designer, when they actually, we talked about doing a three-way, and that was the concern, where you're having, or if it's 3 or 4-way, you're having traffic stop on the railroad tracks. Because
Yeah, you
people
can't
don't necessarily go by a stop bar. They see the stop sign and they're gonna stop, and if it's a big truck. The other thing is the traffic that's actually coming south off of Hill Street, that was also considered as well, with the design and with the engineering, is that if you have one of the bigger trucks, or whether it be a Pepsi truck or a Domlin truck, a low boy, and he's coming through, and if there's a stop sign there right on that radius, guess what? The next vehicle that's barreling around the corner is not gonna have that much time to stop. So you're actually shortening the distance, the sight distance. So that creates another possible, if there's a truck stopped there waiting to cross that 4-way, and another vehicle that thinks he can go right through there where he's used to. So once again, it's the educational process and following that, so.
What's the speed limit there, John?
Should be 25.
Can we drop it down to 15? Can we put signs where we do 15 on Hill Street coming down? And light them up? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think possibly there could be some traffic calming, some additional signage, some flashing signage. It seems like that's been a go-to lately with a lot of the flashing signs.
some
where
speed
people are
bumps
starting to notice that. Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor,
That'd be another meeting.
I think this is something that we should bring back for a future agenda item, but I misread the agenda. We're actually on late agenda items.
Yes.
And so,
Not future agenda.
not
items.
future agenda
Okay,
items, so.
So we already discussed future agenda.
No, so we discussed future agenda. We have no late agenda items, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Call to the public, do we have any calls in from email or
Mr. Mayor.
phone?
No,
Scheduling a meeting.
Yep. But we do have scheduling meeting, discussion there. See that at the,
7th. May 28th, what is that here?
so we've done late, we've done call the public, we've done future, but we need to do scheduling. of
Yeah,
meetings.
schedule meetings, that's next.
Why do we wanna move it to Wednesday?
Because that Monday is, what day? It's
May 27th.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day weekend. And so the Monday is a Monday off, and we have a lot of budget meetings and stuff coming up, so we would like to move it. It's hard to get everything together and organize for a meeting the first day of the week, especially on a short week.
May 27th is when you want to do it? Or
So we'd like to
what's-
push it back to May 28th to that Wednesday.
Good, that's fine.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Believe me, it'll go better.
May 28th,
Listen.
next
I like
meeting, right?
Wednesdays better.
Yeah.
So let's move it all to
Well,
Wednesday.
our next meeting is May 13th. This is the second meeting of May. We just want to move it from Tuesday to
May
Wednesday.
13th. And May 28th, no problem.
Done?
You got it.
And then, so we took care of future agenda items, so Mayor, you get to do
Motion
the.
to adjourn?
Motion made.
So moved.
Motion second to adjourn, all those in favor say aye. Meeting adjourned.
Minute before 9.
Hey, John, I'll tell you.